Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Rare and Mythic portion of the Duskmourn Limited Level Up set review and the special guest. I should point that out too. I'm back with Mark. This is day 2. We already did the commons and uncommons yesterday, so if you're looking for commons and uncommons, you can go check that out either on the Twitch VOD or the Limited Level Ups podcast feed / YouTube channel. But yeah, we're covering the rares. We don't have millions of cards to talk about today, thankfully, because no bonus sheets this time, just the normal cards in the set plus the 10 special guests. So not too much to cover. One thing that I think would be good to cover, Mark thought this might be a good idea, is just talking a little bit about our overall impressions from yesterday as we head into talking about the rares. So yeah, Mark, what are your thoughts on just everything we've seen so far and leading into what we might see with the rares today?
Yeah, so one of the things I like that we didn't really mention is most of the archetypes are not completely insular in this set. So blue-white wants eerie enchantments, but pretty much every color has like a sprinkling of enchantments. And then manifesting dread, like every color can do that, and rooms kind of spread across. And delirium, like there's ways to enable delirium in every color. So I do think there's going to be a lot of interesting spots in this set where maybe you're drafting green white, but you're like not at all interested in the survival type of thing. So when we're doing the rares today, there's a few things I look for and hope for, which I think they've done a really good job in the last few sets. Specifically, like Bloomburrow, I think hit this dead on the head, where I kind of want the gold rares to be like A minus ish level cards, and hopefully a few of them take you in like slightly different directions. Like we had some of the talents in Bloomburrow that asked you to do slightly different deck building requirements, and then the monocolored rares again. Hopefully a couple avenues to do something slightly different, but ideally A minus to like B plus type of range. That's at least my personal preference for rares. A pluses, you're going to get a few of those, but I prefer having less of them. So hopefully today we see a bit of that. And maybe when we notice stuff like that, we can call out some interesting deck building change opportunities.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with that too. Just that stance on rares, and just to give a recent comparison, I think you and me both feel that Bloomburrow really hit it on nail on the head as far as how you kind of want the rares to be, right? Like the mythics are clearly better than the rares. The rares are good, but very few like oppressive cards. And yeah, we'll see. I guess we'll see what that is. What Duskmourn is like too.
Yeah, that kind of like nice grade from common to uncommon to rare to mythic being
Mm-hmm.
like kind of a gradual increase, I think is healthy for a lot of reasons for a set. And it doesn't make it too much of like a prince or a pauper set, and those are the formats I enjoy more, at least. So we'll see if that's like that here.
Yeah, so we're gonna start with the gold cards here today, and just like yesterday, then go into the colorless cards, monocolor cards, starting with costs. We don't go by cost with the gold cards, but starting with Nico, Light of Hope, as our first card here. 2 blue-white for a 3/4 legendary creature human wizard at Mythic. When it enters, you create 2 shard tokens, and we've seen shard tokens before, but if you don't remember them, I don't blame you. They've only been on Nico the Planeswalker. They are enchantments with 2 sacrifice this enchantment, scry 1, then draw a card. So essentially they are clues, but enchantments, and you scry before you draw. Nico also has the ability to tap, exile a target non-legendary creature you control. Shards you control become copies of it until the beginning of the next end step. Return to the battlefield under its owner's control at the beginning of the next end step. So many words in this card, so many good things about it. This card seems phenomenal to me.
Yeah, it's just like, okay, you start off with a 3/4 for 4. Like that's not amazing, but it's not horrible.
Mm-hmm.
And then every like line of text you read is just like, wow, this is even better. Yes, sign me up for more.
Mm-hmm.
This card's amazing.
Yeah, double eerie triggers on ETB. Also, just, if they kill this, you get 2 cards worth of value. If this sticks around, you almost certainly just win the game. You also, just like one turn, you don't. I can see a lot of times when you just like play this, and then if they don't kill it right away, you might just lethal them out of nowhere. Your clues become, or sorry, your shards become something really nasty. So, card just seems great to me. I think this is gonna be between the A and A plus grades for me. Probably just an A, but I'm not even sure about that. What do you think?
Yeah, I gave it an A, but I agree that it could be an A plus. Like
Yeah.
you get to rebuy ETBs even if you don't have something like huge. But yeah, I wrote down A. Are you going to join me there?
Yeah, its ability, the tap to exile something, which but we didn't even go too deep even this, but like retriggers enter the battlefield effects, of course, but also it's instant speed, so you can save your creatures from removal. Like they have to kill this thing first, which is, mind you, what they're gonna want to do a lot of the time. But I might just go A plus on this one. I think it just gives you enough. I could see the color pair maybe holding it back if this ends up being not a great one, but I think I'm gonna go A plus for Nico.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, not a huge difference between A and A plus. I could see you being right.
Yeah.
I'll stick with A, but I totally agree with you.
Sounds good. Next up, we've got a room. Restricted Office is 2 white. There's a rare room. And it says, when you unlock this door, destroy all creatures power 3 or greater. It's got a blue side, Lecture Hall, 5 blue. Other permanents you control have hexproof. So we've got a 4 mana, destroy all the big creatures, field wipe, and a very, very expensive, your things have hexproof enchantment on the other side.
Yeah, this one I find weird.
Mm-hmm. Me too.
Like you'd assume the deck that's gonna have the most small creatures is like red white,
Right.
which probably doesn't want a wrath and like can't play the other side of things.
Mm-hmm.
Blue white has a bunch of things that put counters on its creatures, so like you can't really do this.
You're also just gonna face other small creature decks sometimes, and that ability is gonna be like, okay, maybe I kill one of my things, kill one of your things, but I think that field wipe side is just not all that good. Like it's very narrow and hard to imagine what kind of decks would want it.
I mean, there's other times it's going to be
Brutal.
incredible.
Yeah, of course.
So hard to grade this. Like kind of maybe a cop out, but I almost want to give it like a sideboard grade.
Yeah, so like I guess do you just, well, you said red white makes the most sense for the white side here. How happy are we with that in our red white deck? Because I'm always cautious about cards in a red white aggro deck that aren't just like, yes, I've drawn this and I would like to cast this pretty much as soon as I can. It's a card that is going to get stuck in your hand a percentage of the time. Now, mind you, like you said, sometimes it's going to be fantastic, but my read is, even in a red-white deck, I think it's going to be a little more underwhelming than not.
Yeah, no, I don't want to play this in red-white.
Right,
like,
yeah, I agree
want
with that.
if I'm building red-white as I expect it is, which is like aggro-based,
Mm-hmm.
and especially if you have so many cards that synergize off of having more creatures with power 2 or less, you want this card a lot of the time to just be another creature with power 2 or less to get all of your other stuff rolling.
Right.
So yeah, like I don't really see a home like black white. You're gonna reanimate stuff, so that's where you maybe want the wrath the most, but it also hits the more of your creatures.
Yeah, such a weird combo of effects too, because like, I think that 7 mana side is like, okay, it's nice to have if you are flooding out, but I almost imagine on most turns of the game you're just not gonna want to cast that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I think I should.
We haven't even talked about the blue half.
Right.
There is power there, but that's like pretty niche and very expensive.
I'm gonna start low on this. I'm gonna give Restricted Office, Lecture Hall a. Yeah, Cyborg grade does make sense to me. I am going to put a letter grade on it though, and I'm gonna give it a D plus.
Okay.
Yeah, I imagine it won't have a very high game in hand win rate, which isn't the end all be all, but applications on this card just seem kind of tricky. Next up, we've got Kaido, Bane of Nightmares, a Planeswalker, the only one in the set, I believe. It is 2 blue-black for a 4 loyalty Planeswalker, and it has ninjutsu. So you can pay 1 blue-black, return an unblocked attacker you control to hand. You put this card onto the battlefield from your hand, tapped and attacking, and you go, how can a Planeswalker attack? Well, it also has the static ability during your turn, as long as Kaido has 1 or more loyalty counters on him. He is a 3/4 ninja with hexproof. Okay, so kind of cool. Then of course we've got abilities like any other Planeswalker. There's +1. You get an emblem with ninjas you control, get +1/+1. So not really many ninjas in the set. Really just gonna be Kaido you're buffing here. 0 ability, Surveil 2. Then draw a card for each opponent who lost life this turn. -2, tap target creature, put 2 stun counters on it. So a lot to take in with this card.
Yeah, really nice if you can ninjutsu it, because then you get like the draw card and the discount and
Yep.
potentially like rebuying. Like you can even return like a manifested creature potentially
Yeah.
and get like a bonus there. And the -2 is pretty nice on this too.
Yeah. Also, just so brutal. Just doing this on turn 3. Like you've got a potentially 5 loyalty planeswalker, or just you zero it, you draw a card. It's unlikely they can kill it on the next turn without using a pump spell or something to kill it. So just when you get to ninja this on turn 3, you're gonna feel very very good about it. And yeah, I think ninjaing it later is also very very good because you just have more stuff to protect it after that. So yeah, I think just all points of the game, this card seems very strong.
I think if you have this, like, I think this is so good to ninjutsu that I would strongly consider playing the 2/1 tapped flyer
Yeah, I was
that we
just thinking that
do.
card. Yeah, we weren't so high on that card yesterday, but I agree. I think that is something I would do too.
Yeah, I mean, it is a mythic. You're not going to see it very often, but I would give Kaito probably at least an A. It's somewhere between A minus and A.
Yeah, I think it's an A minus. I think it's not just like completely dominating. I think there will be times when you cast it on turn 3 and it feels really backbreaking. But I think there's other times it's gonna be like, yeah, it's a pretty good value planeswalker. So I like an A minus, but sweet card.
Sure.
Yeah. Next up, we've got Nashi, Searcher in the Dark. This is blue-black for a 2/2 legendary creature at rare. It's got Menace. It is a ninja, by the way. It's got Menace, and it says, whenever it deals combat damage to a player, you may mill that many cards. You may put any number of legendary and or enchantment cards from among them into your hand. If you put no cards into your hand this way, put a +1/+1 counter on Nashi. So 2 mana, 2/2 Menace that either draws you cards or gets bigger as you hit them.
Yeah, I think you said you may mill. The mill is not optional.
Oh, yes,
So
yes, sorry.
you do have to
I
mill.
was jumping ahead to that next line there. You may put any number, but you have to mill, yeah.
Yes, you can choose to not put the cards into your hand and take the counter guaranteed. Most of the time, you're probably going to want the cards that you hit because, like, the card advantage is going to be worth it. But growing the Nashi does mean you see more cards next time, and you do get to keep any number of them. Like, this is not just draw one card. This could potentially be draw 2 cards, draw 3 cards, draw
Yeah.
4 cards. Not that likely, but the like upside on this is going to be brutal when this comes down on turn 2.
Yeah. Also a very good delirium enabler. Right? Just like mill, mill, mill. That seems pretty sweet. Yeah, just nice little package of a card. I would give this a B+.
Yeah, notably both this and Kaito, despite blue black being like advertised as eerie control, they are both attack based
Mm-hmm.
abilities. So something to watch for there, that the rares kind of lead you into more aggressive side of things.
Yeah, very interesting. I wonder if blue black in this set's going to be a little bit like it was in Bloomburrow, where it's sort of billed as a mid-rangey control deck, but could be kind of tempo-y sometimes. I imagine, like we were talking about earlier, there's a lot of ways to build the decks in this format. So yeah, just don't pigeonhole yourself, I guess is the way to think about it.
Yeah, so B plus for Nashi then?
Yep, I would give B+ to Nashi.
Sounds good.
Next up, we've got Undead Sprinter. So this is red-black for a 2/2 trample haste zombie at rare. You may cast Undead Sprinter from your graveyard if a non-zombie creature died this turn, and if you do, Undead Sprinter enters the battlefield with a +1/+1 counter on it. So nice little 2-drop haste creature that just keeps coming back.
So yeah, there's a bunch of these random like stat line matters cards. There's not a lot of zombies in this set,
No,
right?
not really.
Okay. I haven't checked, but obviously the text on that is for this thing, because otherwise it could just bring back itself.
Mm-hmm.
So that means most of when your other creatures die, no, it's not even yours.
Yeah.
Like when anything dies, basically,
Yep.
you can bring it.
Yep, removal spell lets you just go 2 mana removal spell, 3 mana removal spell, cast this in the same turn. That seems very strong.
Well, not if your 2 mana removal is Scorching Dragonfire, right? Because it does need to go to the graveyard.
Yeah, that is actually kind of funny. Scorching Dragonfire is a slight non-bo with this.
Yeah. Still very good card though. Like
Yeah.
this also, a lot of times these recursive things can't block, and this thing does block.
Yeah, also not to mention that it plays very well with Black Red's theme of just sacrifice, right? You're able to sacrifice this, sacrifice something else, bring this back, maybe sacrifice, like if you've got something that's really good to sacrifice to or a reason to sacrifice, like really good piece for that.
Yeah, like if you've got a ton of mana, you can sacrifice something else and then continuously bring this back and sack it. Like
Yeah.
that might be more of a constructed thing, but there is power here. That being said, at most it gets to be a 3/3,
Yep.
but you're not going to ask too much more of your 2-drop.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's definitely going to be one of the better 2-drops in the format. I think it's worse than the last 2-drop we saw in Nashi, so I would give Undead Sprinter like a B, maybe a B minus. Probably about a B.
I still think it's a B plus.
Yeah, you think so?
I
Oh.
think so.
Yeah, the
Like the
haze.
other one, if your opponent, like you're right, the upside of Nashi is higher,
Mm-hmm.
but if your opponent casts the 2 damage burn spell, you're going to be much happier with this being your 2-drop than Nashi.
Yeah, that's fair. All right. Yeah, I'll join you. B
Okay.
plus. Great. Yeah,
Yep.
I agree. Next up, we have Peer Past the Veil. This is 2 red green for an instant at rare. Discard your hand. No, you're not starting out great. Then draw X cards, where X is the number of card types among cards in your graveyard. So it's like a big, really big tormenting voice that wants you to have Delirium, of course.
Oh, so blue, white, and blue, black are the only pairs with 2 rares in their color, aren't they?
Yeah, there's not a
Yes.
lot of gold cards in this set.
Yeah, it's mostly one each aside from the and all the rest rares. Yes, I
Mm-hmm.
guess it's just the 2 mythic. Okay, I'm getting a bit ahead of ourselves. But yeah, each color has 1 rare, and then there's those 2 random mythics. Anyways, Peer Past the Veil. I really like the design on this thing.
It's cool.
I think it's pretty good. Are you there or are you not there?
Yeah, I was. This is one of the cards that I was just going through the cards before we jumped on, and maybe about 5 to 10 cards really gave me pause of being like, huh, how good exactly is this? So you cast this obviously as one of the last cards in your hand, but like sometimes you don't. Sometimes you go like, all right, I just want to cash in my hand here, like turn 5 or something. Pitch a land or two, pitch a spell you don't really care about. But let's just assume most of the time it's like the last card you cast. You're gonna be drawing, I would say, 4 cards off this fairly often in this set.
Well, you're not going to play this if you're not serious about
Yeah,
Delirium.
exactly. It almost should like as an indicator, it almost feels like it should have the little delirium thing there.
Yeah, I do think this is probably worth like giving a build around grade
Mm-hmm.
because you want a low curve is one thing, and you want to be serious about Delirium. But if you're serious about Delirium, like yeah, I think 4 cards could be like the average on this. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's like a 4 mana draw 4-ish that you can't cast on turn 4. Is maybe you have to cast it on turn 6 or 7 or something. And I think it's a pretty good deal.
I don't even think it's that unlikely to draw 6 off of this.
Sure. Yeah, no, absolutely. Draw 5. Yeah.
Yeah, I kind of like this thing.
Yeah, it does somewhat fight against Red Green's beat down Delirium theme where, this isn't a card that beats down. But I do imagine a lot of the Red Green decks are going to trend a little more mid range, sometimes. So you'll have the really aggressive deck sometimes. But I don't think it's so far out of the. I don't think it's so aggressive that I can never conceive of it being a little slower and wanting a card like this.
It could also be a decent splash in green black.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's a good splash card. Yeah, so what
There's
do
a
we
lot
like?
of
It's hard to nail a grade on it, but I think you're probably right. You want to give it a build around grade?
I'm gonna give it a build around B. I think.
Yeah. I was gonna go build around B minus, but yeah, very cool card and one that I think is easy to dismiss if you aren't thinking about it. Next up, we've got Rip Spawn Hunter, 2 green white for a 4/4 legendary creature at rare. It has survival, and we'll read out survival because it's the first time we're seeing it today. At the beginning of your second main phase, if Rip is tapped, reveal the top X cards of your library where X is its power. Put any number of creature and or vehicle cards with different powers from among them into your hand. Put the rest in the bottom of your library in any order. In a random order. So 4 mana 4/4 vanilla-ish. No keywords, no protection, no ETB. But does stand to draw some cards. Some cards. Not exactly sure how many, but some.
Yeah, so we talked yesterday about how we maybe foresee as like the survival deck and the blue-red room deck as the one needing the most support.
Mm-hmm.
Just because maybe they're on the slightly weaker side. And I do think that this is not the the missing piece of the puzzle for that. Like this card's fine, but it's not that great.
Right, I agree with that. I think a lot of the common or uncommon survival cards are probably going to be better, being cheaper and just more reliable to get into the early turns.
Yeah, like I'd rather have the Manifest Dread uncommon than this to be triggered.
Sorry, which one?
The 3/2 that Manifest Dread for survival, the green
Oh,
uncommon.
yes. Yeah, I agree with that. Hmm.
And that card, we didn't give that card like a that great of a grade.
Yeah, it's a card that if you can do the thing right away, like if you have one of those cards that taps your creatures, it's nice to. I would imagine just the more of these green-white survival cards you have in this deck that we're unsure of if it's going to be good or not, the more you want to just be like, yeah, I actually want to get that hasty effect just to make them survive on the turn they come down. Find a way to tap them that isn't combat.
Yeah, I agree with all that. Like we will see cards today in the green and white section that are like very good for enabling survival.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Uh, so like we kind of touched on this yesterday, where there's enough rares and mythics, or sorry, rares and uncommons that work together to make this deck pretty darn scary.
Right.
That being said, I don't think the stats on this are going to be great. I think it'll probably be picked too early.
Mm-hmm.
The 4 toughness, I guess it dodges a lot of the main removal spells, but I'm not gonna give Rip a build around or synergy grade. I think I'm gonna give Rip like a C minus.
Yeah, I was gonna give it a C because I think that, like a lot of times when you are in green white, you are gonna have those cards that enable it. But yeah, I think it's not a card I'm very excited about. So C for Rip for me.
Okay.
Next up, we've got Victor. Just Victor. Victor Valgavos. Seneschal? I feel like that's how that's pronounced. That's an interesting word. Never seen that one before. 1 black-white for 3/3. It's legendary creature at rare. It's got Eerie, which, again, first time we've seen that this set review, so we will read it out again today. Whenever an enchantment you control enters, and whenever you fully unlock a room, surveil 2 if it's the first time this ability has resolved this turn. If it's the second time, each opponent discards a card. And if it's the third time, put a creature card from a graveyard onto the battlefield under your control.
Yes, from either graveyard.
Yeah, either plays pretty good. It's kind of nice little flexibility. So yeah, pretty cool card. 3-mana 3/3. Like, let's just say 3-mana 3/3. Eerie Surveil 2. How much do you like that?
Fine.
Fine. Yeah, it'd be like a C. Maybe C plus.
Yeah, there's not like that many cards that trigger Eerie multiple times on their own.
Right.
Like, and the ones that do are very like you can do both halves of a room, but those are almost all very expensive.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be very, very rare that you get that reanimator ability. Like it's gonna be kind of a screenshot moment where you're like, yes, I did. Like 3 Eerie triggers in one turn is pretty difficult outside of having some pretty specific cards that do give you multiple triggers on one card.
Well, it does work on the white common room,
Yep.
right? On turn 5.
Yep.
Like that does it. That's the way to trigger this.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking when I said very specific.
Yeah. But that's kind of the only one, I think.
So yeah, it feels like to me this is 3-mana 3/3 surveil 2 on Eerie, and then jump through a hoop, like a reasonable hoop, to make them discard a card sometimes.
Yep, I agree.
Yeah.
And for that, I'm again not that excited. Like it's another like C minus type of card.
Yeah, I was gonna go a little higher than that. Just get like a C. Like I said, the Eerie Surveil 2 is like a C. I think I'm just gonna give it a C though.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think the discard part adds that much to it. Next up is a room. Roaring Furnace is a red room. 1 in red. When you unlock this door, it deals damage equal to the number of cards in your hand to target creature an opponent controls. And Steaming Sauna is 3 blue. You have no max hand size, and at the beginning of your end step, you draw a card. Also didn't note, but this is just a rare, normal rare.
Okay.
Nice. Yeah.
Yeah. Now we're talking.
This is sweet.
This card, it's not broken, but this card's very good.
Yeah, it's like the perfect combo of. Yesterday we looked at a lot of rooms. We were like, I don't really love like the combo of these two things together, but this is the perfect combo of abilities, right? Like cheap removal spell plus card advantage engine. Like,
Yeah.
it's peanut butter and jelly.
It's the I don't yeah, peanut butter and jelly probably go together better than a furnace and a sauna. 'Cause
Yeah, fair. More
yeah,
pleasant to most people. Um, this is a really, really good room card. And I think that the red side, well, let's just say you're not in a blue-red deck. I think the red side is playable, but not great.
oh, yeah, that's an interesting point. Like, yeah, would you play this if you can't cast the sauna side?
Yeah, I think if I am low on interaction, but I wouldn't just be like, oh yes, I can take this early, and like if I take this reasonably early in the draft, I'm hoping to be red blue.
Right, because I guess like in red black you can then sacrifice the room.
Yeah,
In red white you might have some eerie triggers. So
yeah.
like in red green it probably doesn't fit because you're like dumping your hand and it doesn't go to the graveyard for delirium.
Mm-hmm.
And I think if you're blue, you don't play this on the blue side, but if you're blue, you probably just try to throw a few like red sources into your deck to you could potentially splash the red side, even though you do want to cast it early.
Yeah, totally. One thing that I did have a thought on after yesterday and looking at the rares, I think the room deck might not be exactly blue red all the time. Like I think there are reasons to be Jeskai, maybe even closer to 5 colors if you're like a green, maybe green blue based. So yeah, I imagine that you could be like a base blue room deck and not need to be blue red exactly.
Yeah, the one thing I got so I read a few of the YouTube comments and Discord chatter about the stuff we said yesterday. People were very surprised about my B plus for Terramorphic Expanse, but like
Yeah.
there's a lot of, especially the next few rares like gold rares, that just in the play booster era there's so many times when you're like, oh wow, look at this amazing rare that's in like one of my 2 colors, and
Yep.
being able to cast that's really important. So what do you want to give this as a grade?
I think it's gonna be a grade based on like, yeah, you're reasonably gonna cast both sides, because I don't think it's like, I think like we just said, it's not like I take this and I'm like, yeah, I have to be exactly blue red. I think it's pretty reasonable to take one, like consider it a blue card or consider it a red card. So there is some flexibility here. I think I would be pretty happy to first pick this card though. Like, this is because of flexibility, because it is so good when you do cast both sides. I think I'm gonna give it like a B, but that might be a little low.
I often, when you're talking, write down a grade for myself to
Yeah.
just save typing time, and I wrote B plus for myself.
Yeah,
So
that sounds about right to me too.
okay.
Yeah, very cool card though. I like B plus too. Okay, next up we've got the Swarm Weaver. This is 2 black-green for a 2/3 legendary artifact creature Scarecrow at rare. When it enters, you create 2 1/1 black and green insect tokens with flying, and Delirium, as long as you have 4 or more card types in your graveyard. Insects and spiders you control get +1/+1 and have Death Touch. All right, well, we found one of the busted cards.
Yeah, I also didn't do a check for insect and spider count. I don't think it's very many.
It's not, but the
even-
green-black signpost does make these same tokens, I believe. The spider that sacrifices itself to make
Ooh.
insects.
Oh.
Yeah. So, yeah, this is, people are saying Writhing Chrysalis in chat. That is an apt comparison. I think this card is probably even a little bit better.
Chrysalis was pretty messed up for a lot of reasons.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't matter too much. Both cards are great. But buying this back, just casting it once, like, it doesn't matter. Delirium or not, it doesn't matter that much. But obviously, Delirium is the icing on top of this beautiful, beautiful green-black cake.
Yeah, there will be spots when you have to be a bit careful where you have Delirium turned on and you like block with your insects and then they like kill the Swarm Weaver before damage.
For
So
sure.
there's a little bit of fragility there. But that's basically the reason that I'm going to give this an A instead of an A+, because it's still like Mondo insanely broken.
Yeah, it's great. I think just an easy A for the Swarm Weaver. Next up is the Jolly Balloon Man. Very creepy card. 1 red, white for a 1/4 haste. Legendary creature at rare. It's sort of like a Kiki Jiki variant. So it has the ability 1 tap, create a token that's a copy of another target creature you control, except it's a 1/1 red balloon creature, in addition to its other types and colors. It also has flying and haste. You sacrifice it at the beginning of the next end step. Activate only as a sorcery. So no blocking shenanigans going on here.
Yeah, no like end step carry over the
Yeah,
creature.
exactly.
Yeah, I do think that's a good change on this.
Hmm.
I mean, I love instant speed abilities, but it's pretty oppressive being able to do this at instant speed.
So there's a lot of really good Enter the Battlefield effects in this set. We kind of noted that yesterday. And some good ones just offhand are the twins, the 4 mana 2/2 make a manifest red when it enters. That's a pretty good one. I think just go down. I was just going down a list of red and white commons, and there's a lot of things that you just don't mind. I mean, you're actively happy to make copies of. Also, just pumps out 1 power creatures for cards that care about 2 power or less things.
Also, it works on death triggers too, right?
Yeah, sure. Sacrifice. Yeah,
Yeah.
totally.
Yeah, you can make some phones.
Yeah, you can make some phones. Yeah, phones to find your Jolly Balloon Man, and then the Jolly Balloon Man turns your phones into balloons. In
All
my
coming together.
in my
Yeah.
2024 Magic set, that's what happens. Yeah, this is the one. It's a cool card. It's very powerful. I do wonder if it is a little bit like how your opponent goes 2-drop into 3-drop into 4-drop, really good curve out start, and then they play this instead of something that pushes damage immediately, like a 5-drop or just like having a combat trick in its place. Like, how relieved are you going to feel as the opponent who's getting beat down? I mean, sometimes you're going to be like, great, it's a 1/4 that's not doing that much, but sometimes it's going to be like, yeah, I need to kill that thing or else I just lose on value, not even considering I'm going to die on my life total.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah.
It's a little off plan for what I think red white will be, but again, I talked about having some appreciation for that on the rare side.
Yeah.
I think it's kind of cool to have cards like this where it takes you in a slightly different direction.
And I imagine it's going to be a card that, again, a pretty splashable card, an enticing card to splash, like in a red-black sacrifice deck, maybe it's a little bit slower.
Yeah, like as long as you're casting this on with 4 mana, you cannot get like blown out by removal. Like you'll get one activation out of
Right.
it.
Yeah.
Or-
Yeah.
yeah, because they don't get a chance to. Even though it's sorcery speed, you get priority as soon as it resolves.
Yeah. And I just, I think there's just so many good things to copy. Like another one is the 2 mana white creature that draws a card, and you discard a card if you don't control a 2-power creature or less. But of course, it's not going to be that likely in red white. Just going to be drawing cards on that thing every single turn. So yeah, what do you want to give it? I think deserves a fairly high grade.
I wrote down B minus.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that. I think that respects the fact that it's not exactly in line with what red white is going to be doing in most decks, but also, like you said, it does give you another avenue. Like, it is a powerful enough thing to change your game plan a little bit in some spots. So I like just B, I think, for Jolly Balloon Man. But yeah, again, a very cool card.
Yeah, I could see it being a lot better or a lot worse.
Yeah, that's fair.
There's a range for this.
Uh-huh. Next up is Zimone, All Questionings. This is 1 blue-green for a 1/1 legendary creature at rare. At the beginning of your end step, if a land entered the battlefield under your control this turn, and you control a prime number of lands, okay, create Primo, the Indivisible, a legendary 0/0 green and blue fractal creature token, then put that many +1/+1 counters on it. Okay, so you play Zimone. You've got 3 lands in play. If you don't, didn't cast off of a mana dork or something, she makes a 3/3. Pretty good. It's legendary, so if by turn 5 you're hoping to get another one, well, either you're upgrading it or you hope the 3/3 trade off. But that alone is just good, right? Like Zimone is a 1/1 plus 3/3 if you have that land on turn 3. That's already a great rate.
Yeah, sorry, I made a mistake in putting the grades in, so I was just switching those.
Oh, no worries.
Okay. There's Arya tweeted a thread on the design of this, like the balancing in terms of the numbers and making the token legendary and making it interesting, but I think they've ended up in a pretty good spot here.
Mm-hmm.
There's definitely going to be some, like, I don't think, not that you really want to anyways, but I don't think you ever really want to cast this on turn 4.
Right, yeah.
Or like turn 6. It's awkward if you have your 5th land already, because like you don't know when you'll hit your 7th.
Yeah.
It gives you some interesting decisions, but playing it on curve, turn 3 is going to be very good. and then playing it on 5 is also going to be very good, and continues to potentially get better than that throughout the game.
Yeah, I think that it's a very cool design in that it's above rate, but you don't always get it. Like, there are some awkward spots if you don't have that land drop or it is turn 4 and makes you play off curve a little bit. That said, I think just like because when this card's in your opening hand and you just get the 3/3 and a 1/1 and they have to kill this and then you're left with a 3/3 behind, like that's just gonna be great in so many games. I think even though there's a little bit of awkwardness here and there, it's still a very, very good card.
This is also it also gives you interesting decisions with evolving wilds. Like,
Oh yeah, for sure. Wow. I didn't think about
you can
that.
like not crack your
Mm-hmm.
wilds.
Mm-hmm.
Does that matter though? Because I guess I guess you can on turn 5 you can play the wilds and not crack it and trigger it, and then on turn 6 you can sack the wilds and not play another land and trigger it again if you're
Yeah, that is
5/3.
actually interesting. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
That's a good
it
use
does,
to it.
it does kind of work. Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so I think I'm gonna give Zimone a B plus. Like as I said, it was like, oh, that sounds a little bit low, but maybe it's about right. Maybe again that awkwardness comes into play a little bit here.
I was nodding as you said B, and then you plus, and I stopped nodding. So
Yeah. It's pretty close. You want to give it a B?
yeah, I'll give it a B.
Okay,
Yeah.
yeah, B for Zimone. Sounds good. Next up, we've got Winter Misanthropic Guide. This is 1 black, green, red, Jund, for a 3/4 legendary creature at rare. Has Ward 2, and says, at the beginning of your upkeep, each player draws 2 cards. Okay? And then Delirium, as long as you have 4 or more card types among cards in your graveyard, each opponent's maximum hand size is equal to 7 minus the number of those cards. Is this just an F?
Yeah, I wish this was just like a little, like, give it a keyword other than ward, or
Yeah.
give it like more toughness maybe, because it's like interesting, and you want the 3 color cards to be like, okay, I've done the thing, but I think this thing's just too bad and hard to cast. So
Hmm.
I do agree that it's an F.
Beginning of your upkeep, each player draws 2 cards. Yeah, I'm just trying to think
Yeah,
of
like
the
that,
way.
and that last line of text doesn't really do anything.
Yeah,
Like Delirium,
it doesn't. It's true.
so their hand size is 3 on turn 5, like at the earliest. Like that, yeah. How many players have more than 3 cards at that point? And if they do have more than 3 cards, like what are the chances that they can't answer this with something? So yeah.
Yeah, chat saying YF, you get the cards first. Well, I mean, your opponents get the cards at the same time. Like, they know it's coming. They can leave up mana, cast an instant. You're also just, like, gifting them 2 cards. Like, there are some decks that perform well where both players have more resources. That's true. But I don't think it's that easy to set that up, right? Like, sometimes you're just going to be facing an opponent where, like, it's just better for them to draw a bunch more cards than you. Sometimes you're facing an opponent who just has better cards in their deck, right? And you're trying to not great cards. They're not as good cards as them.
Yeah, the reason I'm giving this is like if this cost 4 colorless, I would like it.
Yeah, it's the fact that it's also hard to cast, right? Yeah.
It's very hard to cast, and it's like much better on curve because you want the ward 2 to matter.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I might like when I first read this card, my read was just a commander card, and obviously it's good to think a little bit more about it and just be like, okay, well maybe there's a spot for it, but yeah, I would imagine this is I could see us underrating this a little bit at being an actual F. Like I might there's a chance it's like a D plus or like it's mid-level playable, but I'm gonna give it the set review F right now.
Sure,
Yeah.
I'll move it up to a D minus, and you can also put it in a D minus when you do your Sirkovitz comparison.
Sounds
Yeah,
good.
it's not an actual F. So
Next up, we've got Marina Vendril. This is Wooburg, 1 of every color, 5 mana, for a 3/5 legendary creature at rare. When she enters, reveal the top 7 cards of your library. Put all enchantment cards from among them into your hand, the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. You can tap her to unlock or lock target door of a room you control. Activate only as a sorcery. So your room build around card.
like one more ability or like point of toughness or two.
Uh-huh.
It's a little small for the extreme deck building cost you've got to pay for this thing.
Yeah, so it is very powerful though. Like imagine casting a room on 4 or earlier. You play this, you draw, I'd say it's not crazy to imagine drawing 2 cards off of this. Look at the top 7 in a 5-color deck that is built around it. And then they have to kill it cuz you just start getting a ton of mana by unlocking doors. I'm not trying to advocate for it too hard, but I also don't think it's a 0. Like I think this is a Dreamers card that I think if you have the deck, it's playable. Just not that exciting. It's not like, yeah, I actively want to go for this.
Yeah, there's also just like not a ton of fixing.
Yeah, there's a fair amount though. Like I think so. The last time a 5-color card was great was like Neon Dynasty, right, with the Kami War. Like that was an actively great 5-color card. Maybe there's one I'm missing between now and then, but that was a set that had a little bit more fixing than this set.
A lot more
A
fixing.
lot more fixing. Sorry, yeah, because yeah, that's true.
There was the growth enchantment.
Yeah.
There was the terminal, whatever network. Yeah. There was.
Yeah, so I don't think this card is gonna have good 17 lands numbers, but I do think that it is a worthwhile build around if it's a thing you want to do. Like I think it's one of those cross it off your bucket list kind of cards where maybe not the best to go for win rate, but if you're somebody who likes to do that kind of stuff, I think it's a doable thing and just barely worth doing.
Yeah, I'll give it an optimistic D.
Yeah, I like that too. Optimistic D. Okay, now we're going to some artifacts and some lands. Let me just get that pulled up. And our first artifact is Ghost Vacuum. So this is a single mana for a rare artifact. Tap it to exile a target card from a graveyard. You can also pay 6 and tap it, sacrifice the vacuum, put each creature card exiled with Ghost Vacuum onto the battlefield under your control with a flying counter on it. Each of them is a 1/1 spirit in addition to its other types. Activate only as a sorcery. So a bit of graveyard hate, which we noted the set's a little bit low on, and a pretty good ability. Like I can imagine, maybe making 4 spirits with their static abilities that they might have and their ETB abilities. I think it's a pretty playable card.
Unlike the 6 mana 4/4 flyer we saw yesterday that also hits graveyards, this one is instant speed.
Yep.
So even more of a nightmare for like the reanimator deck to go through.
Mm-hmm.
That being said, some decks will not care that you cast this.
Like a red-white aggro deck, you're saying?
Like any of the aggro decks.
Right.
Like the only decks that really care about this are Delirium and Reanimator, right? Like basically the black decks.
So I guess you're seeing. Are you seeing the 6 mana mode is just like, yeah, it's a nice little upside, but mostly looking at it as a graveyard hate card? Because I'm kind of seeing it as 50-50.
Oh, really? So you think I don't. I think that's too slow and small. Like there are 1/1s.
Right, but we did note just how many good enter the battlefield effects are in this set. Right, like 1/1 that manifests dread when it enters, for example. Like again, going back to the twins, or draws a card. Like I think that just stabilizing with, again, 4, I think is pretty reasonable. And some of them having good abilities, I don't know. I think that's not that bad.
Okay, so it sounds like we're gonna disagree on the grade on this then.
Yeah, maybe. I was gonna give it a C. Because I think
I'm gonna go D plus.
Okay, yeah. I could be too high on it, definitely. But I just think that graveyards are going to be pretty stocked in this set between self-mill and just all the things that incentivize you to get stuff in the graveyard. So it's in some other set, I would say, yeah, like sometimes creatures just aren't going to the grave as often as you need them to. But I think by turn 6/7, you'll have that about 4 creatures that I was mentioning. And sometimes more, and sometimes just sits there. So yeah, I'm going to give it a C, but I could definitely see myself being wrong on it. Next up, we've got Marvin Murderous Mimic. This is 2 mana for a 2/2 legendary artifact creature. It's a rare. And it has all activated abilities of creatures you control that don't have the same name as this creature, which is just some anti-weird combo line of text. So basically just 2 mana 2/2 artifact creature that has all your other things activated abilities.
Yeah, I haven't looked up much of this one either. Is there any that come to mind
No,
that are
there's not
relevant?
a ton of activated abilities in the set.
A lot of triggered ones.
Yeah, a lot of triggered ones, but this doesn't care about that. So it's pretty much a 2 mana 2/2 artifact creature that sometimes you'll be like, oh, that's a cool little interaction, but I don't think its text box matters all that much.
Yeah, I think I'm going to give it the same grade I gave the other like generic artifacts yesterday, which is that like the green-black deck, or maybe even the red-green deck,
Yep.
might want a copy of this sometimes, and I'll give it a D+.
Yep, I would agree with that. Yeah, again, like if you're just missing that artifact subtype, something you might want. Next up is Dissection Tools. This is a pretty cool one. 5 mana for an equipment at rare. It's an artifact. When it enters, you manifest Dread, then attach Dissection Tools to that creature. The equipped creature gets +2/+2 and has lifelink and death touch. Okay, so that's pretty nice. The equip cost, pretty steep. Sacrifice a creature.
I love this card.
Yeah, this card's great. Very Batterskull-esque.
Yeah, super sweet. Like a free sack outlet potentially as well.
Yeah. Yeah, I kind of set that up to be like, oh, look at the downside on this card, the equip cost. But yeah, sometimes that equip cost is not often going to be upside, but having a sack outlet is something you're looking for sometimes.
Like even if you only have one creature, like even if you just have this, on turn 6, if you cast the Active Treason,
Yep.
you can still like equip it back to like you can just do the Nadu trick where you're equipping to itself again.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, this card's really good. And it's gonna be one of the better first picks in the set, I would say, just being a good colorless card.
I want to go up to A- for this.
Yep, I was just nodding my head along. I was hoping you'd land on that A-, and I'm there too. Yeah, really cool card.
Okay.
A lot of really cool cards in the set. Okay, now we've got a cycle of rare lands, and these are all 10 of them. There's one for each color, and what they do, here's an example, is Blazemire Verge. So it's a rare land with no land types. It taps to add black and taps to add red, but you can only activate that tap to add red ability if you control a swamp or a mountain. So all of them are, they tap to add a color, and they tap to add the other color if you control whatever the first color is or its paired color.
Yeah. So like almost all the time, these will just tap for 2 colors.
Yeah, pretty much. They're going to be not exactly untapped dual lands, but pretty good approximation of that.
Yeah, as long as you're playing like 2 or 3 color, like once you start to get into like the 5 color deck, there's maybe some sketchiness that goes on with these lands.
Yeah, they sort of remind me of the check lands, like the ones that enter untapped if you control, one or the other, like Glacial Fortress if you control a blue-white tap land that if you have an island or a plains enters untapped. And it's kind of like that, where they're better fixing in 2-color decks than in multicolor decks. Even more so for these kind of cards.
I think these are even better.
Yeah, no, I think so too. I think this is just a better kind of card, but just kind of that better for 2 colors than multicolor is all I'm trying to get at here. Yeah, so what do you want to give these? These are good lands, but nothing too special. We gave the 13 lands C pluses, right? Or did we give those B minus?
We gave those B minuses.
Okay,
I like land.
And I think these are better than those.
I think so. I think like again, we're not saying you have to take these over other B-level cards. Like this is more an indication if you don't know exactly what color you are, taking lands is often going to help you. And I think people often undervalue lands. But yeah, I'm going to give these a B. Like I think they're really good.
Yeah, I'm in for that too. B for these cycle of 10. I'll just go through them quickly here. 10 rare dual lands, which brings us to another rare land here. Oh, sorry. Did you have something?
There's only 5 of them, I think, right?
Oh, sorry. There's only 5. I thought there was 10. My bad. Yeah. I said there was 10 at the beginning of this. There are only 5. I thought it took me quicker than I expected you to scroll through all of them. You wouldn't think I would have noticed. Anyways, we've got another rare land here. Well, I can never say his name. Valgavoth. That's it. Valgavoth's Lair. Enchantment land. Very interesting. At rare. It's hexproof, and it's just a version of the kind of card we see all the time. It enters and chooses a color as it enters, and it taps to add a mana of the chosen color. Enters tapped.
Yeah, so this is Terramorphic Expanse for Eerie instead of Delirium decks.
Yeah, that's a really funny way to putting it. Yeah. Okay, okay. I like that.
I like it just as much. I'm gonna give it a B plus.
Whoa, the B plus. Yeah, I understand. Like if that's where you're rating Terramorphic Expanse, doesn't make much sense to rate this one too much lower. So I'm gonna go a little lower than you. I think that's a bit rich for my blood and just give it a B. But yeah, you stay with your hot take. I like it
Yeah, I just this is more of a statement to say
for
like
sure.
pick land fire. Yeah.
Yep. Okay, and let me just go over to white now. Okay, white cards now. So going to the monocolor cards, we've got Reluctant Role Model up first. This is 1 and a white for a 2/2 at rare. It's got a survival ability. If it's tapped at the beginning of your second main phase, you either put a flying, lifelink, or +1/+1 counter on it. And whenever it or another creature you control dies, if it had counters on it, you put those counters on up to one other target creature.
So the cheerleader gets a flying counter, right?
It does, yeah.
So that kind of combos with
It is
this.
kind of cool.
I do think the first thing you put on this will also likely be a flying counter most of the time.
Yep, so you can keep on
Just
getting in.
get in, yeah. Um, yeah, I'm like a pretty good survival payoff, but definitely not anywhere in the A range. That's for sure.
No, it's just like it almost reads like a really beefed up uncommon.
Yes.
Yeah. And there aren't, I'm trying to think of +1/+1 counters. This set has some, but it's not like loaded with counters or anything.
There's a few manifest dread things that come
Yeah,
with
that's
counters.
true. Yeah, I actually forgot
And
about those.
there's also the two white rooms, the common and the uncommon.
Okay, yeah, I forgot about those two. I gotta admit, there's also the, of course, the survival uncommon puts counters on things. So
Hmm.
maybe a bit more than I had anticipated.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a nice old 2-drop. Again, just when we're rating rare or high rarity 2-drops, it's just like, yeah, like your opponents are gonna be sad to see this on turn 2. Maybe not as good in the later parts of the game, but not all 2-drops can be great later. I think I'd give Reluctant Role Model like a B minus. Not too much higher than that, but it does go up a little bit if you just have a ton of counters.
Yeah, I wrote B. I think there's upside there, but
Yeah.
close enough.
Yeah, sweet. Next up is Enduring Innocence. This is 1 white for a enchantment creature. It's a glimmer as well, a sheep glimmer at rare. It's a 2/1 lifelink, so 3 mana for a 2/1 lifelink. Whenever one or more other creatures you control with power 2 or less enters, draw a card. This ability triggers only once each turn, and when Enduring Innocence dies, if it was a creature, return to the battlefield under its owner's control. It's an enchantment, but it's not a creature. And we'll see this. This is a cycle of cards of these glimmers that have kind of enchantment static abilities, and when they die, they come back as just enchantments without power and toughness.
I have things to say about this card, but we cannot ignore what chat just brought up about the last card.
Oh, great! Yeah. Let's go back.
Super sweet interaction with the double striker that comes with 2 -1/-1 counters.
Oh, that is really funny. Yeah, because you put the -1 counters on your opponent's things when it dies. That's really
Yeah,
sweet.
you can target opponent stuff too.
Oh,
That's really
that's cool. Yeah, good to bring that up. Okay, yeah, back to
Enduring Innocence.
Yep.
These creatures are all slightly understated, but in I think pretty much all but one of their cases, you don't care because trading with literally anything, including a removal spell, and then getting this like static enchantment is still going to be great.
Yeah, this is Mentor of the Meek-esque. A little bit harder to cast, of course, that 1 white. I gotta always bring up whenever you have a cheap double pip card, it always ends up being a little bit worse than you might think, because hard to cast early. But
Mentor
yeah.
was K1, wasn't it? This is the vampire instead.
Oh, sure. The what was that called? Welcoming Vampire, I think. The 2/3.
I wanted to say welcoming, but I'm not sure.
Yeah. And that card was really good. I think his card is I was gonna say a little bit worse, but not even sure. It's just a little bit different.
Right, because like this, there is like the tiny downside that this doesn't help you with delirium because it like doesn't go to the graveyard.
Yeah, that's funny. I mean, when you self mill it, if that's a thing that maybe you're playing some self mill,
yeah,
yeah, it does help there.
But yeah, I want to give this an A minus.
Yeah, I'm gonna go a little lower than that, just because a little hard to cast. Some games you're just not going to want to play a 3-mana 2/1, it is small, so it gets tagged by cheap interaction, but really high upside. So I'll stick with a B plus. Not quite in the A range for me.
Actually, well, I was about to say what cheap interaction do you care about them casting on this? But the blue turn a thing into a 0/2 is at least a temporary way to turn this off.
Yeah, that's kind of funny. Yeah.
But yeah, like if your opponent's cast, I guess even Scorching Dragonfire does it too. So maybe you're right.
Yeah.
Maybe you're right.
Yeah. Good card, just not a busted one. Next
So
up,
what did you give it?
Oh, sorry. I give it a B plus.
B plus.
Yeah.
I think I will join you there in that case.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Split Up is up next. This is 1 white for a sorcery at rare. Choose one. Destroy all tapped creatures or destroy all untapped creatures. Interesting.
Yeah, picturing how this is gonna play out is pretty
Tough.
interesting.
Yeah, it's not easy. You of course, this is the kind of card where you imagine like, okay, they're gonna attack with everything. I'm gonna untap. All their stuff's gonna die. None of my stuff's gonna die, and that will happen sometimes. But the attack all just doesn't happen all that often, right? Like your opponents don't attack you with everything unless you're just about to die.
Well, there are a few cards that incentivize that. Like, for example, this card is pretty interesting with whatever the wheat, children of the wheat.
Yeah, that is kind of funny. I tap all of my stuff and then this gets them.
Not only tap all your stuff and like attack with the child, and then maybe cast this and destroy untapped creatures they have remaining, but also tapping your blockers either to like a vehicle or to something else also incentivizes them to attack all. In which case, then you can do the untap your creatures, slam this, destroy all tapped creatures.
Yeah.
Really interesting. Like it feels like they would have designed this before because it's like pretty simple words, but it's really unique.
Yeah, it's a very very interesting card because it's obviously clearly powerful. But you need to set it up in some way, either with specific cards to like tap your own stuff, or engineer like a game state where your opponent is incentivized to get whatever one you want. Like leave all their things untapped or tap all your stuff. Plays very well in like if you happen to have like a tempo-y flyer deck. I don't think that's all that supported here, but just if you are ships in the night passing, this is going to be a really kind of great card. I think I'm going to rate this card fairly highly. I'm lowish on field wipes, but I think, compared to the average person, but I do think this one, in the hands of a good player, is going to be very powerful.
Okay, what do you want to give it then?
Yeah, I'm going to give it a B+. I think that might be a little bit high, because I think there are going to be a lot of situations where in the hands of an average player, it might be hard to set up the situations I was talking about, but I think this card is very skill testing and very going to be very rewarding for good players.
Yeah. I'm going to be a bit more cowardly and go B-.
B-? Yeah. I just think that the thing that is giving me a bit of pause is that it is so cheap, right? It almost seems like a trap where it's just like it's a wrath, an engineered wrath, which we know how powerful those are. Farewell as a great example. That costs 6. The fact that it costs 3 almost seems like it's too good to be true. So we'll see. Yeah, that's the thing. I'm my take is this is very good. I also could see this just being playing way worse than you might expect it to. So
yeah, that's we'll see.
B-, sticking there.
Yep.
Next up, Toby, Beastie Befriender. This is 3 mana, 2 and a white for a 1/1 legendary creature at rare. When it enters, you create a 4/4 white beast creature token with this creature can't attack or block alone. And as long as you control 4 or more creature tokens you control have flying.
So imagine this into the red-white gremlins card.
Oh my god. Jesus. Yeah. That's a good way to get 4 tokens.
Yeah, that's nuts.
This card is great on its own. Like it's very similar to Zomone in a lot of ways.
Well, can attacker block alone is a real
It
downside.
is.
Like I think your black-white decks, if you're kind of lower on creatures that cost less than 6,
Mm-hmm.
uh, that this is markedly worse.
Mm-hmm.
But in any type of regular deck, like anything other than black-white, this thing's going to be incredible, especially with the red-white uncommon that I mentioned.
Yeah. Yeah, I totally agree. I think it's going to be pretty hard to get to 4 creature tokens. It's not. That's going to be. I don't know. I imagine like 20% or maybe less of games you're actually going to do that. But just the raw rate on this is really good.
Mhm.
Yeah. I'm gonna give Toby a B plus. Think that's too high.
I wrote for my no, that's what I wrote too.
Nice. B plus for Toby.
I'm with you there.
Next
Yeah.
up, unidentified hover ship. This is 1 white for a 2/2 vehicle at rare. So our vehicles play very well with survival. It's got flying, and it says when it enters, exile up to 1 target creature with toughness 5 or less. When it leaves, the exiled card's owner manifests dread, and the crew cost is just 1. So a 3-mana 2/2 flyer that kills something on entry and gives them a manifest dread when this thing leaves.
And you can target your own thing.
Yeah, if you want to. If you upgrade like a 1/1 or something.
Yeah. I think that'll be a non-zero amount of the time.
Yep.
But yeah, certainly at its best in any type of survivor
Mm-hmm.
shell. But I think this card's just good.
Yeah, I think this card's just good too. Me too.
You
Yeah.
play this in any white deck, like no
Yep.
matter what. I think.
I think you're just gonna be happy casting this card. I don't think there's too much complicated about it.
A minus.
Yep, that's exactly what I was gonna say too. A minus for unidentified hover ship. All right,
Great.
first in the cycle of ley lines, we've got these enchantments that you can put them on the battlefield for free if they're in your opening hand, but none of them are particularly great for limited. So Leyline of Hope, 2 white for an enchantment at rare. If it's in your opening hand, you can start with it on the battlefield. If you would gain life, you gain that much +1, and as long as you have at least 7 or more life than your starting life total, creatures you control get +2/+2. F.
Yep. Quick F.
Yep.
Go to the next one.
Great.
Yep.
Ghostly Dancers up next. 3 white for a 2/5 flyer at rare. When it enters, return an enchantment card from your graveyard to your hand, or unlock a locked door of a room you control. And the Eerie ability here is to make a 3/1 white spirit creature token with flying.
Wow.
Yeah, wow indeed.
This is one I want to give in. Like this is an equally short grade where I'm just gonna say A plus.
Yep, I agree with you. This is a super, super scary card. Wow. Yeah, not much to talk about. Just fantastic.
Yeah.
Next up is another one here that we might give a very quick grade to. The Wandering Rescuers. This is 3 whites for a 3/4 legendary creature mythic. It's got Flash, Convoke, and Double Strike. And other tap creatures you control have hexproof. Wow.
Yeah. Another card that makes your survivor stuff better.
Oh,
'cause
wow.
You can
Yeah.
just convoke your stuff out on your main phase, but if you don't want to do that, protect. Yeah, this is another A plus, right?
Yeah, card's just silly. So flexible, so powerful.
Yeah.
Yep, A plus. Next up, we've got a rare room. Dazzling Theater is 3 white for a enchantment that says creature spells you cast have convoke. So, well, more ways to tap your creatures. And then Prop Room is 2 white. Untap each creature you control during each other player's untap step.
Yeah, the poor theater kids are not really holding their own on this one.
No,
I think this is,
don't think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, just not quite good enough. It yeah, I mean, it just doesn't do enough, basically. It creates some mana. It gives your creatures vigilance, but
Not worth a card,
No.
and it's really expensive for each side.
Yeah.
Like, way more than I would have expected.
mm-hmm. F?
Easy F. for me.
Yep.
Yeah, definitely.
Next up is, okay, the first in a cycle of absurd mythics is Overlord of the Mistmoors. This is 5 white for a 6/6 enchantment creature at Mythic. It's got Impending. Oh, sorry. I said enchantment creature, but it's got Impending 4, which is 2 white for the cost. And Impending is only on this cycle of Mythics. It says, if you cast this spell for its Impending cost, it enters with 4 time counters and isn't a creature until the last is removed. At the beginning of your end step, remove a time counter from it. So sort of like Suspend for folks that have played with Suspend, but it's on the battlefield. And when it enters or attacks, create 2/1 white insect creature tokens with flying. So let me just go through that again because there's a lot. Just recap. 7 mana, 6/6. That when it enters or attacks, you make 2/1 white creature tokens with flying. Impending 4, 2 white. You can just put it on the battlefield, and you get those 2/1s, of course, when it enters for 4 mana.
Yeah, so notably impending is a little different than suspend or, whatever other comparison you want to make.
Yep.
It's almost so this is actually the only one where if you impend it, it comes down on the same turn as if you would cast it. Because impending 4 is really if you put impending 1 on this creature, it would do nothing, right? Like, because you just remove it at the end step and then it can block. So impending 1 does nothing unless the thing has haste. So basically you can take 1 off of the impending cost plus the mana cost. And if you impend this on turn 4, then on turn 4 it loses a counter, turn 5 it loses a second counter, turn 6 it loses its third counter, and turn 7 it loses its fourth counter. So it's basically the same as casting this on turn 7, but you've got a discount and you got your creatures up front.
Interesting. Yeah, I hadn't made that connection. So like, this is the only one of the cycle that does that. You're saying that's basically the same.
Yeah, all the others, the impending plus the mana cost, well, it's basically 1 less than impending plus the mana cost is equals 1 more than the total mana value. This one, you're basically always going to want to impend it, no questions asked. It is extremely good.
Yeah, extremely good. Like Grave Titan plus levels of good.
Yeah, is this another A+?
I think it's an A+. Yeah, this is just a fantastic card. All right, another one that is also very, very good. So a Mythic Room. First side here is Dollmaker's Shop, 1 and a white. Whenever 1 or more non-toy creatures you control attack a player, create a 1/1 white toy artifact creature token. Porcelain Gallery is the other side, 4 white. Creatures you control have base power and toughness equal to the number of creatures you control.
So this creature type matters is relevant. There are a number of toys. I also haven't done the check as to how many, but there's a bunch. So you do need to there will be spots, I'm sure, where you cast this and then attack, and then there'll be that like pause on Arena where you're like hovering over the 2 cards, like, why didn't I get a token?
Yeah.
That being said, still very powerful. Like, I really like Dollmaker's Shop on its own, and the ability to make all of your creatures extremely relevant.
Massive.
It really pushes this over the top.
Yeah, just massive. And of course, I mentioned this yesterday, but worth mentioning again today for the first time, that anytime you got a room, you just have to also consider that it's an enchantment, cares about Eerie, cares about other things, like just you're not just looking at the effects on the card, you're looking at the card type here. I think this one's probably more an A than an A+, but still very good.
Also, like, you kind of read these left to right and you assume, like, okay, I make a bunch of tokens and I do the other thing. But this can sometimes just be like a 6 mana overrun.
Yeah, exactly. Your things are just massive. You've got 4 things, and yeah, seems good.
Yeah.
Join me in A?
Yeah, I'm going to join you. Yeah.
Great. Okay, moving on to blue. So going back to cheap stuff now. Silent Hull Creeper is 1 and a blue for a 1/1 enchantment creature at rare. Can't be blocked. And when it deals combat damage to a player, choose one that hasn't been chosen. Either you put 2+1/+1 counters on Silent Hull Creeper, or you draw a card, or it becomes a copy of another target creature you control.
Yeah, this thing's really interesting because you have to choose one. So the third time you hit with this, you're basically losing the can't be blocked ability unless this is the only creature on your side. In which case you kind of get to keep doing the thing. But whatever you copy, it's going to be 2+1/+1 counters bigger than that.
Right.
I think the thing's really good.
Yeah, it is really good. And it's also not a 2-drop, like, you don't mind casting this a little bit later. It's still going to be pretty relevant. You'd like to cast on 2 just to get the engines going. But it's not a bad turn 4 play. I think you're probably going to choose the abilities in the order listed, most likely.
There's a few cards in Bloomburrow that I was really happy that we like talked up and then got dead on. Shoreline Looter was one of them. Like, the fact that you're casting a 1/1 on turn 2 is not that much of a downside when you get this much baked into it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and Shoreline Looter is a very Like, I think that's a good comparison for this card. I think it's fairly similar in power. And Shoreline Looter was like a B+. You want to give Silent Hall Creeper a B+?
I want to give this an A-. I think this thing's really good.
Yeah, no, I'm there too. I agree. All right, let's just do it. A-.
Okay.
Next up is Abhorrent Oculus. This is 2 and a blue for a 5/5 eye at Mythic. It's got flying, but it says as an additional cost to cast the spell, exile 6 cards from your graveyard. Pretty hefty. At the beginning of each opponent's upkeep, you manifest Dread. Which, actually, we haven't read this out today, so I'll do it for the first time. Look at the top 2 cards of your library. Put one on the battlefield face down as a 2/2 creature, and the other in your graveyard. You can flip that 2/2 face up by paying its mana cost if it's a creature at any point. So this is a card that you alluded to yesterday when we were talking about things that are very good to manifest Dread into. Like, if you cast the actual card, Manifest Dread, and you see this on turn 2 as one of your options, you get to flip it up on turn 3, attack them for 5, and of course, you don't have to pay any additional costs here.
Yeah, and then you just win the game.
Yeah, you just win.
Being said, even if you don't manifest this, I think you kind of need to build towards it a little bit, but it's still extremely powerful.
There was a card from original Innistrad, the Scab Ruinator. You know what card I'm talking about? The 5/6 Mythic, and that card was like super hyped up, and ended up being like fine and limited. I think this card is much better, but I'm just putting a little bit of a note as like how difficult, or how much do you think that Exile 6 is going to hurt the card?
Well, I guess so. In an average game, what turn do we think this is going to be castable?
6?
Maybe that's worth talking about, right?
Yeah, turn 6. Oh, like, are we saying we have self-mill, or are we just like an average game of Magic that maybe doesn't have self-mill in it?
If you need self-mill, then I think you need to start talking about this as getting a build-around grade. So let's, we're going through this reasonably quickly. I know it's going to be a long total set review, but I think this card's worth talking about.
I agree.
Let's start with assuming you're not doing like any self-mill.
Right, okay. So no self-mill. Probably castable by turn 7.
And by no self-mill, I mean like you're probably still playing some number of Manifest Dread cards, but you're not like really, trying to turbo out the thing.
No, say its name, for example. The one in the green, mill 3. Yeah, get back a creature. Yeah. So if you have some Manifest Dread, I like turn 7, turn 6.
Yeah, and I think this thing on turn 7, and you can also like double spell with it. Like it does get rid of your delirium.
Yeah.
But still worth doing.
Yeah, super powerful.
Like for 7 mana, like a 5/5 that manifest dreads each opponent's upkeep, which basically like right away, because unless they kill it instantly, you're getting that trigger as soon as they untap. I think that's worth it.
Yeah, no, me too. Yeah, I don't think you're ever cutting this card, right?
Okay, so we're gonna give it just not a build round grade. We'll just give it a grade for being excellent. Then, like this average between what we think the standard case is and the upside.
Yeah, I think it's a good way to approach it.
And for that, does this reach the A- level, or is it more of a B+? I think it's somewhere in that range.
Yeah, me too. I think it's more of a B+. This is another card that I think is going to be better in the hands of good players because they're going to respect the deck building around it a little bit, and also be able to engineer, get it, play their game to get 6 cards in the graveyard.
Yeah, and also because they picked Terramorphic Expanse higher.
Yeah, exactly. Boom, there you go. Yeah, I think I'm pretty comfortable giving this a B+.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll go up. Yeah, I think I'm gonna go up to A- for
okay.
this.
Yeah. This is one of those cards that I mentioned, like 5 to 10 cards that were kind of gave me some pause, and this one was one that I had to think about for a while. So we'll see where it lands. Next up, we've got Entity Tracker. This is 2 and a blue for a 2/3 flash at rare. It's got Eerie. And when you trigger Eerie, you draw a card.
Flash on this is real nice.
Yeah, because you skirt around the problem of being like, all right, play this. You're gonna kill it. You don't have to. Your opponent's probably tapping out with a creature on turn 3 before they're not gonna leave up a removal spell all the time.
Well, also there's a pretty significant flash package in
Yeah,
blue, right? Like
for sure.
there's a whole bunch of counter spells. There's some draw spells. There's the Grip Tide. Like there's a lot going on here at instant speed. I'm actually not sure what color best supports that package. Like that maybe red or black, and you can kind of try and do that thing. But the fact that your opponent also has to play around other stuff too is kind of nice with this.
Yeah, this card is really good. Huh.
It's like is it also it's also for me somewhere between B plus and A minus?
We've been given a lot of pretty high grades. Yeah, I wonder if we're like slightly too high on some of these.
Well, we were also lower on like there were barely any uh like B plus commons yesterday. So I really do think this is another case where it's kind of, you want to open your wares and get to play them and kind of build around them.
Right. Yeah, and we've had these kind of enchantresses before that are 3 mana, and the last one I'm really thinking of is from like Theros Beyond Death, and that one grew, got a +1/+1 counter as well. But like that card is fantastic, and I don't think this card as good because it doesn't grow, but the flash makes up for some of that. So I can't rate it too lowly. I think I'm gonna give it a B plus.
Okay, it's also like a lot of times you would expect this to have a once per turn line on it, and there
That's
isn't.
true. It doesn't. Yeah. Yeah, maybe it's the A minus then. Maybe just the A range.
I'm gonna give it an A minus.
All right, yeah,
I'll
I'll
leave it
join you. You've convinced me.
Okay.
I'm there too. Next up is this was kind of funny. The Mind Skinners. This is blue for a 10/1 legendary enchantment creature at rare. Cannot be blocked. And it says if a source you control would deal damage to an opponent, prevent that damage, and each opponent mills that many cards. So castability is definitely an issue here. But is this card good?
I think the answer is no.
Yeah, I think so too.
Like even if you're mono blue, I don't think it's like insane.
I puts them on a very quick clock, like what, 3-turn clock basically.
Yeah, but any interaction answers this. Like one toughness and an enchantment type means it's like probably pretty easy to deal with.
Mm-hmm.
And the first hit, if they untap and like get to deal with it, that could be upside for them.
Exactly. Yeah, I was just gonna say I can imagine a lot of games where the opponent you go, yep, hit me once. Like, one of the classic things to think about with graveyard sets is a lot of your graveyard decks, like your Delirium decks in this format, they would just choose to start with 10 cards in their graveyard if they could. Right? Like if you just had a button that said, would you like to mill 10 cards? You go, yes, I would like to mill 10 cards. So yeah, I think it is a card that I think some people are probably going to overrate because of how quick the clock can be. But one of the things to remember is that it's not like a damage clock where it's like, all right, I dealt them a few points, a few big hits, and then maybe something else finishes them off. If you hit them twice with this, they're still going to have a bunch of cards in the library, and you really didn't accomplish too much.
There's also like an interesting question of whether you play this pre-combat or post-combat if you otherwise have attacks.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, I mean that's assuming you're mono blue, and this card is like uncastable in a regular deck. I think this card's just bad.
Yeah, want to give it the F?
I do. It might be a hot take, but
Yeah,
I think it's tough.
I think it could be too. Yeah, it dies to the black one drop. That's kind of funny. That deals damage. All right, yeah, I'll give it the F. Tale of Tamio is a saga. I believe the only one in the set. 2 in blue for a rare saga. The first 3 chapters are all the same. They are mill 2 cards, and if 2 cards that share a card type are milled this way, draw a card, and then repeat this process. The 4th chapter, exile any number of target instant sorceries and or Tamio Planeswalker cards from your graveyard. So no Tamios in the set, but for you constructed folks, copy them. You may cast any number of the copies, and that's not without paying their mana costs. You still have to pay the mana costs.
Yeah, first read of this, I thought it was like you get to cast them all for free. I thought it was like really
Busto.
interesting.
Yeah.
No, not even Busto. Like that's you had to wait a long time for that. But then I realized what it said, and I think this is another F.
Yeah. So it's not very likely you're ever gonna draw a card off the first. Not very likely, but it's. I haven't run the numbers exactly, but I can imagine there are a lot of times you cast this, you get all 3 triggers, and you don't draw a card off of it. So you've just stocked your graveyard, which matters sometimes, but not worth a card. So it's like a big card selection spell, basically, that fills your graveyard, and it takes a lot of time.
Yeah, the thing you're most likely to hit 2 of are lands, right? You have
Yeah.
17 lands in your deck. So the numbers on like hitting 2 of those, probably over the course of the 3 chapters, you're gonna like hit that once.
Yeah.
But that's not even close. Like this, it's way worse than a divination.
Yes, I agree. I don't think it's unplayable, but I don't think you're gonna want to take this card very highly ever.
Okay, well, I'm gonna give it an F. If
You
you
are?
want to
Yeah.
go any higher,
I was
go
gonna give it a
ahead.
D. Yeah, I think it is in the realm of playable. I don't think it's quite enough.
Okay.
Yeah. Next up is Enduring Curiosity. This is 2 blue for a 4/3 flash enchantment creature, a Glimmer at rare. So this is the blue one of the cycle. Whenever a creature you control deals damage, does combat damage to a player, draw a card. And then it's got that text of if this thing dies, it comes back as just an enchantment. Notably, this is whenever a creature deals damage, not like whenever 1 or more. So each creature will trigger this ability.
Oh, yeah, I didn't even clock that.
Yeah. And also, the card for the flash package we were just talking about.
Yeah, and instant way to trigger Eerie.
Yep.
So if you have your life linker or whatever.
Yeah.
So I guess the idea is like you can ambush something, but the idea is you like attack and then they don't block and then you flash this in before damage.
Yeah, could do that. Or maybe you set it up where you do expect them to attack you and you flash this in and draw a card off of it. Or like just trading off with a pretty big thing and then you're left with something. Like left this Biden of Thassa Coastal Piracy kind of enchantment. A lot of play to this card, actually. A lot of different play patterns.
Yeah, you actually have an interesting decision if they attack you with like, a 3/3 or a 4/4 or whatever as to whether you're supposed to trade or not. Because if you don't trade, that's theoretically like +1 more card you could be getting.
Right, yeah.
But I think this card's like pretty good.
Yeah, me too. I think it is good, not amazing. I think I'm going to give Enduring Curiosity a B.
A B.
Yeah.
Ooh.
You
That's
higher?
lower than I was leaning.
Yeah.
I think I will go up. I'm going to go at least B plus. I wouldn't be surprised. Like I was thinking of giving it an A minus though.
Yeah.
And I still am, honestly.
Yeah, it could be the case. Like, sometimes you're going to just cast this and draw like 3 cards off of it right away. So.
It's got tight.
Yeah,
I think I
no,
will
you're
give it
right. I think B is too low.
Okay, you're going to go up to B plus then?
I think just B plus. Yeah. I was considering the A range, but I'm gonna stick with B plus.
All right, sounds good.
Leyline of Transformation, another really quick one here. 2 blue for an enchantment at rare. It starts on the battlefield if it's in your opening hand. This says you choose a creature type as it enters, and all your creatures are that type. Nope. F. Overlord of the Flood Pits. This is the blue mythic impending card. 3 blue for a 5/3 flyer enchantment creature. It's got impending 4 for 1 blue. When it enters or attacks, you draw 2 cards, then discard a card.
Yeah, so again, the impending plus the mana cost means this will be able to block after you pass on turn 6.
Yeah.
So this one does have some interesting, like, because it only costs 5, there will be times when I think you just want to hold this and not do the impending cost on it.
Yep, I agree with that.
But I think like you're going to be really happy either way.
Yeah, this
not
one
quite as good as
it's
the white one.
Sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say not quite as good as the white one.
Yeah, I was just gonna say like this card is really good, but looks modest in comparison to the white one. Yeah. So you have the white one of A plus. This one not quite as good. I think probably the worst of the cycle, maybe second worst, but again, very good still. I think I'm gonna give Overlord A minus.
Yeah, so somewhere between A minus and A.
Yeah,
And A minus sounds pretty fine.
sweet.
I'll just give it an A. It's still really good.
This next one's really interesting. Marina Vendril's Grimoire. So this is 5 and a blue for a legendary artifact at rare. When it enters, if you cast it, draw 5 cards. A lot of cards. You have no max hand size and you don't lose the game for having 0 or less life. Whenever you gain life, draw that many cards. Whenever you lose life, discard that many cards. Then if you have no cards in your hand, you lose the game.
Yeah, so this was spoiled fairly early, and I assumed that it was going to be okay. There's like this whole sacrifice theme going on, so the joke is like you cast it and then you sacrifice it. But it turns out the sacrifice stuff is only for creatures and enchantments.
Yeah.
So I think this thing's just bad.
Yeah, I think so too. It's kind of like Lich's Mastery for those who've played original Dominaria. But you set your life total to probably about 6 when you cast it, maybe 7. And yeah, it just means that you like can't actually just use all the cards that you drew.
Right, because like there's no tempo to this, so you're
Right.
probably giving them an attack the turn you cast this,
Right.
and then if you're discarding cards, it's terrible.
There's also not a ton of incidental life gain in this set. Like we saw a little bit, but it's not. I can't think of a card that's really combos with. Probably just an F then, right?
Yeah, it's like again where the responsible thing would probably be to give it an F. I'll go down to D minus.
Yeah, no,
because
I'll join you there. I think there's maybe a time or two you play it. All right, we got a rare room that cares about rooms. So this is Central Elevator, 3 and a blue. When you unlock this door, search your library for a room card that doesn't have the same name as a room you control. Reveal it, put it into your hand, and shuffle. Promising Stairs is the other side, 2 and a blue. At the beginning of your upkeep, surveil 1, and it says you win the game if there are 8 or more different names among unlocked doors of rooms you control. So again, more support, more cards point towards that like all-in, maybe multicolor room deck I was talking about.
I love that this exists. I don't think it's particularly good though.
No, I don't think so either. But again, it's for the dreamers out there.
Yeah, but it's not like unplayably bad.
No,
Like,
exactly.
it's glacially slow.
Yeah.
But I think I'm gonna give it like a D plus.
Yeah, I almost think the grade is important just to give you a general power level gauge of this card, and I would agree with that D plus. But it is really great when they have cards, decks like this that are seeded in. Just gives you that extra longevity for the format, right? That extra, on week 5, week 6, you're like, all right, haven't done the thing yet. Let's do the thing. And this like deck, I think, is exactly that. So yeah, I'll join you. But cool card.
It's probably worth giving this build around
Yes,
grade
that's
too. Like
also correct. Yeah.
giving something a build around D plus feels like an insult, but I think that it's there's spots definitely not in the first 2 weeks when everything's super speedy, but there's spots later on in the format where you're going to want to do this.
Next up is a Mythic Room, Mirror Room, 2 and a blue. When you unlock this door, create a token that's a copy of target creature you control, except it's a reflection in addition to its other types. And Fractured Realm, 5 blue. If a triggered ability of a permanent you control triggers, that ability triggers an additional time. And of course, that cares about rooms. Rooms are triggered abilities that happen when you unlock the doors.
Well, there's a bunch of other triggered abilities too.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Yeah. If you can cast the realm first, then you're going to get double tokens when you mirror room, but that's pretty unlikely. More likely, this is like a clone, draw a super slow card type of thing.
Yeah, I think this card is solid. Like, it's a 3 mana clone your own thing, but it's also an enchantment, so that matters. And I think 3 mana clone your own thing, it's like that'd be like a D plus level card, but bumping it up a little bit to like a C minus because enchantment. And then sometimes, like Fractured Realm is like that is going to be worth the 7 mana. You just start to trigger your rooms multiple times, your other things that have triggered abilities. Like there was the white blue room we saw, and we're like, you're just not going to cast that 7 mana side very often. I think this one it's pretty reasonable to imagine you doing that. So if the Mirror Room was a much worse card or like a more awkward card, I wouldn't like this. But because the Mirror Room is like just good enough, I think I'm gonna give this like a C plus.
Chat mentions this is a nice one to unlock for free with your Phantom Monster.
That is a really nice one. Yeah, true, true, true.
Doesn't help it get through though. Like the front side doesn't really push the creature through. So, you're gonna go C plus. You said. I think I'm a little lower than that. I'm gonna give it a C minus.
All right. Yep, that is totally fair. Okay, on a black now. Demonic Consul up next is 1 in a black for a sorcery at rare. Search your library for a demon card. Reveal it, put it into your hand, then shuffle. But if you have Delirium, you search your library for any card. Put it to your hand. So a true demonic tutor.
Yeah, it's either demonic tutor or demonic tutor.
Yeah. And there are some non-rare demons we saw yesterday. There's the 6 mana one that you discard cards and give things -2, -2. There's the 7 mana one that's like a 6/5 that makes them sack things.
And then there's 2 more cards we're going to see in black. I think Rares / Mythics that are demons. Totally 4. In total 4.
Yep.
I've already not been a fan of demonic tutors in regular limited sets. Like, I think they're much more powerful in like Vintage Cube when you have something totally broken to get.
Yep.
I plan on never playing this. I recognize it's not totally unplayable. I'm going to give it a D minus.
Yeah, I was going to give it a D. I think I'm in line with you. Like, you always have to consider, even if this was just actual demonic tutor, you're tacking on 2 mana to whatever you're going to get. But I think it's not completely unplayable, so I'll give it a D.
Okay.
Next up is Come Back Wrong. This is 2 in a black for a sorcery at rare. Destroy target creature. If a creature card was put into the graveyard this way, return to the battlefield under your control, but you sacrifice it at the beginning of your next end step. So you basically get an enter the battlefield effect if that creature had an ETB.
Or a die trigger.
Or a die trigger, yeah, that's a good point.
Or it could be a total mystery if you target a manifest and you don't know if you're going to get anything or not.
Yeah, who knows what you're going to get. So,
could be anything.
Sorry, go ahead.
I said could be anything.
Yeah, could be a boat.
Yeah.
Is this worse than murder? Better than murder? Sorcery speed, kill a thing, single black mana, maybe comparable?
I think it's comparable.
Yeah.
I think like murder, we gave it a C plus yesterday. It might even have been underselling it a bit. I think like murder will be good this set. It's probably more likely to be a B minus. This is probably similar, the C plus to B minus range.
I would bet this is closer to a B minus. Like, I think there's just going to be enough good ETBs that you're like, I already talked about that a little bit, but I think that sorcery speed versus double pip, like that balances out almost. So yeah, B minus seems pretty good.
Okay.
Unstoppable Slasher up next. This is 2 in a black for a 2/3 Death Touch at rare. When it deals combat damage to a player, they lose half their life rounded up. And when it dies, if it had no counters on it, return to the battlefield tapped under its owner's control with 2 stun counters on it. What an annoying card.
This card is incredible.
Yeah. Wow. Really cool.
Yeah, like you take 2 turns off and then it's just back again, and then like, and your opponent, like if you're in the opponent's spot, what do you do on, because the earlier you trade with it, the faster it's coming back.
Right.
But if you don't block it the first time, it's such a like punishing effect.
Yeah, you hope to have a Scorching Dragonfire or a Trapped in the Screen or whatever that Banishing Light kind of card was. You need exile removal to deal with this thing, or else you're just going to be trading down in so many ways.
I think this thing's an A.
Yep, me too. I'm going to give an A to Unstoppable Slasher.
Okay.
Looks really good. Enduring Tenacity is the Black Glimmer. This is 2 black for a 4/3 enchantment creature at rare. Whenever you lose, or whenever you gain life, target opponent loses that much life, and when it dies, comes back as an enchantment. This one is not great. It's just a 4/3 enchantment creature for the most part. Sometimes you're gonna trigger it, but it's not that relevant.
Yeah, I think this thing slept through its alarm the day it was supposed to pick up all of its abilities.
Yeah,
like...
yeah. Give it a lifelink. Give it even a death touch.
I mean, it's almost like a downside that this thing returns to the battlefield.
Because you would prefer the enchantment creature to go in the yard? Yeah, that's kind of funny.
Yeah, and like the ability is not really, that relevant, so...
Yeah, I guess lifelink in particular would be broken with this. Just like, yep, you take 4 no
Yeah,
matter what. Can't give it
ability.
lifelink.
Yeah, but like menace on this would be fine, or death touch. Like you expect a little bit more when you see how good all the other ones are.
Yeah, I think
I
four
think
three enchantment creature is like a D minus or a D.
yeah, you're probably right. I think yeah, I'm gonna give it a D.
Yeah, like
That's great.
there's
I
gonna be a
didn't
deck
think it was
once.
that low. I
Sorry,
think you're
yeah,
right.
go ahead.
I said I wasn't initially going to go that low, but as soon as you said it, I think you might be right.
There's gonna be a deck where you go, oh, I actually have 7 ways to gain life, but there's just like we mentioned, not that many ways to gain life. So it's gonna be a once in a while thing, and it's totally fine if you do have those cards, but vast majority of the time, I imagine this is just not going to be a card you take almost ever.
It is nice. So it's not the nicest curve because they both cost 4 mana, but there is that eerie thing that becomes like a 4/5 lifelinker in black, the
Sure.
uncommon. So
Yeah,
that like
interesting.
immediately, yeah, dashing bloodsucker. Thank you
Yeah,
for that.
maybe not a D. Like I think I'm gonna give it a D because I think there are some spots where it's fine.
Okay, so you're gonna join me on a D.
Yep. Leyline of the Void up next. 2 black for an enchantment. If it's in your opening hand, you can put it on the battlefield, and if a card would be put into an opponent's graveyard from anywhere, exile it. So before we started recording, we had some questions of is this a playable sideboard card? Out of all the ley lines, maybe this one is playable. I think if you're facing a deck that is just clearly like turbo self-milling and they're all about the graveyard, you could consider it, but I also wouldn't necessarily recommend it.
See boarding this in against like Reanimator.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think instead of an F, I'm gonna give this a sideboard grade.
Yep, I agree. Sideboard grade.
Okay.
Next up is Meat Hook Massacre number 2, the sequel. XX black for legendary enchantment at Mythic. When Meat Hook Massacre 2 enters, each player sacrifices X creatures. Whenever a creature you control dies, you may pay 3 life. If you do, return that card under your control to the battlefield with a finality counter. Whenever a creature an opponent controls dies, they may pay 3 life. If they don't, return that creature card under your control with a finality counter. Really, really tough to cast. And good, definitely, but really, really tough to cast.
I think this needs a build around grade, not for the text, but for the mana box.
Yeah, exactly. You have to be like a 12, 13 Black Source deck.
You learned that, eh? From Invoke Despair with your 9/8 split that I was giving you a hard time for.
Yeah, I mean, look, sometimes do as I say, not as I do, you know? But yeah, you got to be very, very heavy black.
I think 11 is probably the minimum. Sources of black I'm talking about.
Yeah, and then just imagine how this plays out. 6 mana, both players sack something. I don't even know if this card is that good when you cast it. Like, I mean, it's good, but like juice worth the squeeze wise, you pay 6. You sack something, they sack something. You can get your thing back. You pay 3 life, so maybe trigger an ETB again. But then they probably just take 3.
Yeah, and then you have you do have the static ability for the rest of the
yeah,
game.
Right. Yeah. I don't want to write that off for sure.
But I agree with you. I think this is like a build around. Well, so once you pay 8 mana for this, 2 creatures, but then you need enough life that you're gonna pay like 3 to 6 life.
Right. If it's by that point of the game and you've had this in your hand, like you're probably a little bit behind on life / board.
So is this like a build around B minus?
Yeah, I was even gonna go like build around C plus. I imagine again this is mana cost is being a consideration here, but I imagine this card's not gonna have very good stats.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah,
I'll join you at build around C+.
Yeah, build around C plus.
Yeah.
Next up is Grievous Wound. 3 black for an aura at rare. It enchants a player. The enchanted player cannot gain life, and whenever the enchanted player is dealt damage, they lose half their life rounded up.
F. Not
Yeah, I'm pretty sure this is not good. No.
Yep.
Okay. Next up, Overlord of the Balamurk. This is the black avatar impending card. 3 black for a 5/5 enchantment creature in Mythic. Impending 5 for just 1 and a black, only 2 mana. Whenever Overlord of the Baelmerk enters or attacks, mill 4 cards, then you may return a non-avatar creature card or a planeswalker card from your graveyard to your hand.
Yeah, so you do need enough creatures to like if you're gonna impend this, you want to be really likely to hit. Well, actually, you know what? Even if you miss on this,
Delirium.
mill 4, enable Delirium,
Mm-hmm.
and then like 4 turns later, you have this 5/5 coming down. It's not that bad.
Yeah, I also think in just like a 15 creature deck, looking at 4 cards, I don't know how the numbers offhand, but I think that's something like 70% to hit. Just if you cast it on
Right.
turn 2.
And you can also like you can do this later and get something
Sure.
you've already milled. It doesn't need to be one of the ones that you milled specifically.
Yep. I do think this is when you're probably going to cast outright more than impend.
Yeah.
Because impend 5 is
I
also a
agree.
pretty big number.
Yeah. And the creature you get back's more likely to be better at that point.
Danelius in chat says 84% if you have 14 other creatures in your deck. So it's a really good hit rate.
Yeah.
Still a really good card. Again, looks a little bit modest compared to the white one, but I think I'm gonna give this one pretty similar to the grade to the blue one. I think I'm gonna give Overlord a minus.
Yeah, I went to A on that one. I do think this one might be worse, so
Yeah,
I will give it an A minus.
sounds good. Next up is, I think, another pretty quick F here, Doomsday Excruciator. 6 black mana symbols for a 6/6 flyer at rare. It's a demon. When it enters, if it was cast, each player exiles all but the bottom 6 cards of their library face down, and at the beginning of your upkeep, draw a card.
This is not enough. I disagree.
Okay, yeah, let's hear it.
Like there is a deck that specifically wants to, discard things and reanimate
Okay,
them.
so yeah, as a reanimator target, I wasn't considering that. It's a fair point. But also, you want your reanimator targets to be castable sometimes, and this one isn't?
I'm not going to argue it much higher than enough.
Okay, yeah.
Because I do think, like, if you're doing the reanimator thing, like, it's not even that much worse to just try and go for one of the black land cyclers. Like, 6/5 ward versus 6/6 flying upkeep draw card. Obviously, this is better, but, like,
But
so much
also,
easier.
doesn't this just kill you? Like,
Well, only if you cast it.
that's right. Okay, I see. Yeah. Okay, no, you are totally. I read this card wrong. Yeah.
Yeah, it does say if it was cast.
Yeah. Totally right.
Because I do agree that that second line of text is a downside.
Yeah, if you cast it. So you reanimate it, and this is a demon that draws your card each turn. Okay, I agree with that. I think this has a place as a reanimator target.
Yeah, I'm gonna give it a D+.
Yep, that sounds about right to me. Playable.
Okay.
Playable.
Do we give it is that a build around
We should
grade?
probably
or
give it a build around our synergy grade.
I think we can just assume that, right? Like people, I think for this one it's obvious enough.
Well, I mean, it didn't click for me immediately, so I would probably put the synergy qualifier.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if we're giving it a build around grade, I'm gonna go up to C-. Then,
Okay,
we'll say.
yeah. Next up is a room. Unholy Annex is one side. 2 and a black for an enchantment that says at the beginning of your end step, draw a card. If you control a demon, each opponent loses 2 life and you gain 2 life. Otherwise, you lose 2 life. So very, very painful for Phyrexian Arena unless you control a demon. Luckily, the other side is a demon. It's Ritual Chamber. 3 black. When you unlock this door, create a 6/6 black demon creature with flying.
Yeah, unfortunately, you can't lowercase d demonic tutor for this.
Yeah, that's kind of funny. So 5 mana 6/6 flyer. That's pretty solid.
Yeah, another one where you're going to cast the right side 1st almost every time.
Mm-hmm.
Whether you cast the left side or not, I think is going to be an interesting question. Like even if it's turn 6 and your demon is alive and around, you're not necessarily always going to unlock the Unholy Annex.
Right, yeah, because you have to kind of plan, like, okay, if they do kill this,
yeah,
like, can I reasonably close this game out in 3 turns? Otherwise, I am probably going to die to this thing.
Right, but you do get like that one, probably, unless your opponent is like really tricky, you get that one trigger where you drain 2, draw a card, and then that spots you the next one.
Mm-hmm.
So, really good card, and surprisingly decision complex, but even if you just evaluate this as 3 black, make a 6/6 flying demon token, and then have an object around that you can bounce or sacrifice. It's still gonna be really good.
Yeah. So, yeah, what do we give this? I think a big dummy flyer. It is large, very, very large, but I don't think that's quite good enough on its own to be, an A or anything.
I wrote B plus for myself.
I'm just gonna give it a B, I think. This reminds me of, there was the Modern Horizons 6/6 demon that ended up being kind of mediocre, and I know that's Modern Horizons for sure. It's a little bit different, but I think same thing here. Like 6/6 is big, but it's not anything special.
Shilgengar or something like that?
Yeah, Shilgengar, that's it. Yeah, I'm gonna give this a
I
B.
do think this is better in a less powered set.
Fair, and it's also an enchantment. I can't, I gotta take my own advice and say, okay, it's also something that triggers your Eerie.
Yeah, much worse against bounce spells, though, I guess.
Yeah. B plus for you?
Okay. Yeah, I'm gonna give it a B plus.
Okay, I'm just gonna stick with my B.
Okay.
Next up is the big bad Valgavoth Terror Eater. This is 6 black for a 9/9 flying lifelink legendary creature elder demon at mythic. Its ward cost is pay or sacrifice 3 non-land permanents. If a card you didn't control would be put into an opponent's graveyard from anywhere, exile it instead. During your turn, you may play cards exiled with this card. If you cast a spell this way, pay life equal to its mana value rather than paying its mana cost. This is one heck of a reanimation target.
It sure is. It is way too much mana otherwise, though.
Yeah, 9 is... So when you're talking about expensive cards, 7 is doable. 8 is you gotta put some work in. 9 is like your entire deck has to be dedicated to casting this, and even sometimes then you're not going to be able to. Yeah. So a reanimator card through and through, I would say, unless you're like maybe a black-green deck with an exceptional number of mana producers. But even then, that's, again, kind of iffy. But as a reanimation card, yeah, it's really, really good.
I also think this is going to have bad stats.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
Because you need to not only have the critical mass of reanimation spells, you also need to have the critical mass of like discard outlets for this.
Yep.
So
Tricky one to grade.
Yeah, I'm gonna give it a more conservative grade, although I do think that the upside is certainly there.
Yeah.
I'm gonna give it a C- for reanimator.
Was that C- or a B-?
B-.
Yeah. Yep. I think I'll join you. I think it's a hard one to nail down grade wise. Like this one definitely is conversation matters more than the grade. Yeah, I am sort of wondering if this ends up being a little more castable than not. Just if the set is slightly slower / you put it in a green deck, but like I don't want to write that off, I guess is all I'm trying to say.
There's nothing that makes like multiple mana, is there?
There's the green, whenever a face down permanent enters, you get to search for basic land, put it on the battlefield.
True.
Yeah.
And then there's also a green, the green enduring whatever thing also kind of does it. But...
Yeah. That we'll see in a few minutes. Yeah, I think that I wouldn't write it off as castable completely, but don't expect to. Maybe is a good way to look at it.
So what grade are you giving it?
I'll same grade as you. I think it's a pretty appropriate grade. All right, one more card here for black. Another room. This is another mythic room. Funeral Room. 2 in a black. Whenever a creature you control dies, each opponent loses a life and you gain a life. And Awakening Hall. 6 black. When you unlock this door, return all creature cards from your graveyard to the battlefield.
That's a heck of a finisher.
Yeah. And like we just said, 8 mana is doable. If not a lot of mana, but doable.
8 is like... 9 is uncastable. 8 is like almost uncastable. 7 is like painful, and then 6 is like you can do this.
Yeah. It is a little bit of a weird combo of effects though, because Funeral Room is a more aggressive card, and Awakening Hall very much isn't.
Yeah. And well, it does like give you the life, so I think it's trying to give you some time.
Yeah,
maybe.
that's fair.
I Yeah, I don't think this card's great though.
I don't either. Yeah, because I think neither side is fantastic. Huh. Tricky one. Tricky one. Is it kind of a build around, like a self mill build around? I don't think so.
Nah. Yeah, I'm because if you're spending cards self-milling, like you really need every other card you play to be impacting the board to get away with this, I
Mm-hmm.
feel.
Yeah.
I'm gonna give this, I think, another kind of cop-out C
Yeah,
minus.
no, me too. I think that Funeral Room, like, if you're just thinking that as, say the Awakening Hall wasn't on the card, or you didn't expect to cast it in most games, I think an aggressive deck could play Funeral Room, but it's not a fantastic card. Funeral Room actually just seems bad. Yeah, I think so too. So there's like Bastion of Remembrance, which from Ikoria, and that gave you a 1/1, and that card was good, but that was in a set where Sacrifice was a really good thing to do. Maybe even better than it will be in this set, and that 1/1's a big deal. So, all right, red cards now. Chainsaw, first one here is 1 in a red for an equipment at rare. When it enters, it deals 3 damage to up to 1 target creature. Whenever 1 or more creatures die, put a rev counter on Chainsaw. An equipped creature gets plus X plus O, where X is the number of rev counters on the Chainsaw, and the equip cost is 3. So mostly
I like
a deal
that.
3, but
That's a real upside.
it is, yeah.
You sound unexcited.
Yeah, I think I kind of am. Like, maybe I should be more excited about it. It's so it comes in. It's gonna have a rev counter, obviously. So you've got a 3 mana +1 plus O. Let's just assume you get into combat a few times. As maybe grows to 2. It only grows 1 per turn max, though, right? Because you can't. It is 1 or more creatures die. Sorry, I guess not exactly 1 per turn max, but
Fine.
in combats, anyways.
There's a number of first strike, double strike, removal
Sure, sure,
spells.
sure.
Possible,
Yeah.
yeah.
Hmm. Yeah, I don't want to. Maybe just I was expecting a bit more, but it is just good on. It's already pretty good. I should expect too much more.
Like
Uh,
what? So what do you want to give it?
I was gonna give it like a B minus. Did you want to go higher than that?
I think so. Like, what did you give? It's better than Glassworks, right? Glassworks is
That's the deal 4
the deal
and
4
pings
for
them.
3 mana sorcery that then gives them something. Is that the one that gives double strike later?
Yeah, for 5 mana. Yeah, I give that a C plus. I think. I just think sorcery speed deal 3 is like good, not great, and so is the equipment. It's good, not great. I think that it balanced to like a B minus for me.
All right, I'll give it a B.
Okay.
I think it's a B.
Yeah,
Yeah.
totally fair. Fear of missing out is the first one up next. Is the next one here? This is one of the first cards that they previewed, and this is like the one of the first examples of like, oh, here are the fear cards, and it's just a very like modern example, not exactly throwback to 80s hoarder. But we've got Wonder Red for a 2/3 enchantment creature at rare. When it enters, discard a card, then draw a card. Worth noting, I believe this is the wording that if you have no cards in hand, you can just draw a card off. This is the last card you play.
Correct.
And Delirium, whenever Fear of Missing Out attacks for the first time each turn, if there are 4 more card types in your grave, untap target creature. After this phase, there's an additional combat phase.
Yeah, so
Weird.
notably you have to choose that on attacks. So like they'll know which creature is untapped for the second combat phase. Right? So like if they have some blocks, they can just put the blocks on the thing that was
Right,
gonna
yeah. So it has to be kind of like an invasive creature.
Yeah, so I don't think that delirium line is actually very relevant. I think it's slightly relevant, but less so than people think. But even if you're not playing this in a delirium deck, I still think this card's good.
Yeah, it's a 2-minute 2/3, which is a good place to start. Not great on its own. Like, it's not just a selling point, but it's a good place to start. It's an enchantment creature. Gives you some
hmm
card selection.
hmm
Yeah,
Potentially card
yeah,
advantage.
I think so. C plus? Maybe B minus?
I think it's a B minus. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I can buy that. Yeah, that Delirium line of text is just so trinkety. I think it's just not going to come up that much.
Is it even better that like so the whatever you have it, the bellowing crier from,
Yeah.
Bloomburrow, like in this set would be better because the it's more relevant. This
Hmm.
is types and 2 extra toughness. Like I think that discard a card, draw a card is really good. I'm gonna go up to a B for this.
Yeah, this is a very good card for enabling Delirium. Like, it's an enchantment creature that is a discard outlet.
Hmm.
Yeah. I could see it. I'll stick with my B minus, but I could definitely see it.
Sure.
Next up is Razorkin Needlehead. Red for a 2/2. It's a rare. Has first strike during your turn, and whenever an opponent draws a card, the Needlehead deals 1 damage to them.
You need a ton of red sources to cast this on 2, and it gets a lot worse after turn 2.
Yeah, because 2/2 first strike. I mean, it's still good, but you want this to get that first 2 points in.
And then the draw card is an ongoing. Like the earlier you get that out, the more damage it's
Yeah,
gonna.
exactly.
Yeah.
So very similar to some of the other cards we've been talking about with tough mana costs. Like, you got to make sure you've got 10, I'd say, the bare minimum red sources in the deck.
I do think this will have bad stats because
Yeah,
people will play it with 8 red sources.
agree. If you're responsible,
Um,
though, I think it's a pretty good card.
yeah, not. I'm gonna give it like a C.
Yeah, I was gonna give it C plus.
Okay.
Yeah. Roller Crusher Ride is up next. This is X2 red for a legendary enchantment at Mythic. It's got Delirium. Actually, gonna read out the effect first before the Delirium, but it says when the Roller Crusher Ride enters, it deals X damage to each of up to X target creatures. In Delirium, if a source of non-combat damage, if a source you control would deal non-combat damage to a permanent or player, while you've got 4 or more card types in the graveyard, it deals double that damage. So we're looking at 4 mana, deals 1/1 creature, not great. 5 mana, 2/2. That's pretty good. 3/3 is really the sweet spot, I think.
And the fact that all those numbers could be doubled.
Yes, definitely could be. Yeah, exactly. If it is 4
all the
mana,
damage.
yeah, great, yeah. Actually,
Yeah,
I
that's
think
great.
most likely by the time you get to the three, like X equals 3, I wouldn't be surprised if it is Delirium more often than not.
Yeah, 6 damage to 3 creatures for 6 mana.
Yeah.
And it
Yeah.
also like sticks around, can be sacrificed. That there could be other things that are dealing non-combat damage.
Yeah,
Like,
hell of a card. Wow.
yeah, this thing I think is an A.
Yeah, I think so too. At least it could be A plus. Just it's so good at stabilizing and pushing damage. But yeah, it's six mana for that effect is where the sweet spot is a bit much. So yeah, I'll stick with the A2. But really strong card.
Okay.
Next up is Screaming Nemesis. This is 2 and a red, 3 mana for a 3/3 haste at Mythic. If it's dealt damage, or whenever it's dealt damage, it deals that much damage to any other target. And if a player is dealt damage this way, they can't gain life for the rest of the game. Wow.
Boros Reckoner.
Yeah, Boros Reckoner. With haste.
And haste instead of first strike.
And
which is,
easy, more castable in a non-Boros deck.
Yes.
Wow.
Card is amazing.
Yeah, it's just your opponent can't block this pretty much ever without getting 2 for 1.
Right.
Yeah. Card's really strong.
Like it's basically a removal spell or bust.
Yeah, I want to give this one an A?
I think I'm giving it an A minus,
Yeah.
but it could be A.
Yeah, I think A minus too. Yeah,
Okay.
very strong card though. Next up is an interesting one, Cursed Recording. 2 red for an artifact or rare. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, you put a time counter on Cursed Recording. Then if there are 7 or more time counters on it, you remove those counters and it deals 20 damage to you. Okay, so that's all downside. The upside here is tap it. When you cast your next instant or sorcery spell this turn, copy that spell. You may choose new targets for the copy.
I think this is bad.
Yeah, my gut instinct was to say it was bad too, especially because this is a set that isn't instant and sorcery focused. I mean, yeah, and that's not to say that you're not going to have a good pile of them in your deck sometimes, but it's not like it's a theme. I think that the nice thing about the card though is that the 7 spells just isn't going to come up that much. Like, I think you're going to have won the game or lost it because one of your cards is this card before that matters.
Yeah, like if you've copied 4 things, you're probably gonna win.
Yeah.
But the question is, what is your spell count? Because like you need this to start being relevant instantly.
Mm-hmm.
No pun intended.
Yeah.
And and then at that point, like if your deck is tons of spells, then do you have a problem closing out?
Yeah, there's probably some particular cards that play very, very well with this that, we're not going to go deep on this card exactly today, but I kind of saw it like Wishing Well a little bit, where Wishing Well was a card that we gave a really low grade to the set review. It ended up being a playable card in like blue-red or heavy spell decks, and I think this might be the same as just like a not going to be played in most decks, but pretty good for a red-black removal heavy deck. Like you said, then you might have problems closing out if you're that removal heavy, but
Yeah, is yeah, like doubling, like you could be casting counter spells, and then at that point you're not even really caring about the nice thing is when you copy, it doesn't add like a second counter, right? So you want to have 6 or less instants and sorceries that you want to copy, and counter spells aren't even like relevant to copy.
right. Yeah, I don't think we have to talk too much longer on this. I just kind of wanted to give it a nod of, as I don't think it's an F, but I also don't think you're going to play this. Most people will not play this card or need to play this card in their duration drafting this format. So I'm going to give it like the build around D. But it probably, if you are playing it, it's probably a little bit better than that.
Yeah, I'm gonna give it another build around D plus, which is actually the third one I've given for that. So.
Very insulting, these cards. Next up
Yeah.
is Enduring Courage, the Red Glimmer. 2 red for a 3/3 enchantment creature at rare. Whenever another creature you control enters, it gets +2/+0 and gains haste until on a turn. And when this dies, you bring it back as an enchantment that's not a creature.
Incredible.
Yeah, very, very good. Wow. That is quite the effect.
Yeah, this is one you're happy to just trade off.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's almost like, you could almost be like, hey, wait a second. Isn't this a 4 mana, no ETB, no protection card? It is, but you really don't mind if it dies. So.
Yeah.
Yep. A minus? A
minus? Yeah, I think A minus.
I think A minus sounds right too. Yeah. Leyline of Resonance. Oh, sorry. Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
It is still like a lot. I'm getting higher and higher on Scorching Dragonfire and some of the Exile Artifact or Enchantment cards after seeing more of the rares today.
Yeah, absolutely. Me too. Next up is the Red Leyline. 2 red for an enchantment. Put on the battlefield if it's in your opening hand. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell that targets only a single creature you control, choose new copies for the target. Or copy that spell. Choose new copies. F.
Yeah.
Waltz of Rage. This is 3 red for a sorcery or rare. Target creature you control deals damage equal to its power to each other creature. Until end of turn, whenever a creature you control dies, exile the top card of your library. You may play it until end of your next turn. Wow. Card's
There's
great.
a lot of cards with higher toughness than power in this set, though.
It's true, yeah.
Like, what are your commons or uncommons that you're targeting with this that's like wiping? Because you do want to wipe the board with this.
Yeah, so I think nothing in this set, I mean, unless you're just playing like the Reanimator deck or you have like giant green things, most things in this set are like 3 toughness or less though, right?
There's a bunch of 4 toughness. This does work with Death Touch. There's the common green Death Touch, there's the black room that gives Death Touch, there's the bad 4/4 black thing that gives, or 3/3 that could become a 4/4. So there's some ways to turn this into a Wrath, but even then there's also like there's blowout potential with this because you're only targeting one thing of yours.
It's true, but then if this works, that thing gets to have a free attack and you've drawn a few cards probably, or if you haven't, you've got cards in hand still.
Yeah, I'm not trying to talk you too low, but
Mm-hmm.
I do think there's some factors. I don't think this is in the A range. I mean, that you can certainly give it an A grade because you're pausing
Yeah,
for a
I
long
was
time.
gonna give it an A minus.
Okay.
I think I'm still there. I think the card's still really good. I definitely hear your reservations here, and I think they hold some weight. But I also think the upside on this card is just ridiculous.
Okay. I'm somewhere between B and B plus, and I guess I'll just give it a B plus in
Okay,
that
yeah,
case.
I thought you might go a little bit lower, but yeah, we're pretty close, anyways.
Okay.
Next up is the red mythic avatar. This is Overlord of the Boiler Bilges. 4 red
Bilges.
red for a 5/5 enchantment creature at mythic, impending 4 2 red red. When it enters or attacks, it deals 4 damage to any target.
It's Skoa.
Yeah, yeah, it's a really juiced up mechanical Skoa.
Yeah, no, this is much better than Skoa.
Is this an A or an A plus? Is the question.
Oh, I'm not going to give this an A plus.
So an A?
I could even see this getting A minus, but I think I'm just going to give it an A.
Okay.
Do you want to give it an A plus?
No. I just thought it was worth I think it's worth considering it as an A plus. Like the card seems ridiculous to me.
Yeah, I'm just going to give it an A.
Okay, yeah, that's fine enough. Next up is a room. Charred Foyer is one side here. It's a mythic, by the way. 3 in a red. At the beginning of your upkeep, exile the top card of your library. You may play it this turn, and Warped Space is the other side. 4 red red. Once each turn, you may pay 0 rather than pay the mana cost for a spell you cast from exile. So you
Yeah,
gotta,
so that
yeah, go ahead.
no, you first.
Oh, no, I was just kidding. You got a kind of a personal Howling Mind, draw a card each turn, and a if you've got the mana to sink into it, later all those cards you draw are free.
Well, that was the part I was going to comment on because I think warped space is more useful than it seems.
Okay.
Because there's a good chance that you just have the mana to like by the time you're on turn 6 unlocking this, if you hit a land and a spell like for your draw spell plus top card, it doesn't matter. But if you ever hit something off the top of your library that costs like 4 or more, let's say,
Yeah.
you can just pay the extra 2 mana for this once. Kind of
Right.
like blacksmith's talent, right?
Oh yeah, that's a good comparison.
Like you could pay for the thing every turn and you can probably afford it, but if you just pay a little bit extra for the one-time thing and then everything's free after that, I think it is relevant.
Yeah.
That being said, 4 mana to draw a second card every turn. We've seen cards like this somewhat underperform. I don't think this card's, broken.
No, I don't either. It's a pretty decent card. Just like if you are a room's control deck, just a good way to draw some cards.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I. Do you think you're gonna first pick this most of the time out of an average pack?
I don't think so.
Yeah, I think there's often going to be a common or an uncommon better. I think this is about a C plus, maybe B
I also
minus.
will C plus for myself.
Yeah,
So
yeah, I agree
yeah.
with the C plus there. Next up is green cards. Home stretch here. Valgavoth's Onslaught. This is XX green for a sorcery rare. Manifest Dread X times, and put X +1/+1 counters on each of those creatures. So this is a 3 mana 3/3, and then at 5 mana, it's 2 4/4s. Manifesting Dread, of course, each time, so not even just 4/4s. And then once you get to 7, it's 3 5/5s. Pretty much everywhere on the curve. I mean, 5 is like the sweet spot, maybe, but very, very good.
This card should be a mythic. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, this card is nuts. And it, not even mentioning that it does scale from there. Like, you could cast it for 9 mana sometimes. Yeah, card's great. I mean, 2 4/4s. It's not much more. Like, you don't have to tell me anything more. 2 4/4s, 5 mana is just good.
Yep. A plus.
A
Move on.
plus. Yep. A plus.
Great.
Next up is Twitching Doll. This is 1 and a green for a 2/2 artifact creature. At rare, tap to add a mana of any color and put a nest counter on Twitching Doll. You can also tap and sacrifice the doll to create a 2/2 green spider token with reach. For each counter on Twitching Doll, activate only as a sorcery. That is a hell of a line of text on your mana dork.
Yeah, I don't like that it's one that makes it even better in the early game and like worse as a top deck.
Sure, yeah, I agree with that.
Because often like the buyout on these is when they're not relevant is like, when you draw them on turn 6 and you kind of want a way to make them relevant. And this one just becomes like even better of a turn 2 play and not that great as a top deck.
It's still a pretty solid top deck, right? It's a 2/2 that your opponent's going to have to answer.
Yeah, and it's got types.
Yeah, like this if you play this on turn 2 and your opponent doesn't have a removal spell, I think it's pretty much just game over, right? You start to get a huge mana boost.
Yes.
Plus this thing just like, I guess there's an interesting game to play here, like pushing your luck, right? Because it's only sorcery speed. You're like, all right, how many 2/2s can I make? I would be pretty inclined to sack this once you've got 3 counters on it, though.
I 100% agree with that.
Yeah. Very good mana dork, though. And it's an artifact creature, too, that puts itself in the graveyard for Delirium.
Does that all wash out to about a B+?
Yeah, I was going to go A-, but I could see being a little bit high. I'm going to stick with that A-, though, actually. I think there's just... I think, again, the opening hand win rate on this card is going to be absurd, and it's not that bad when you draw it late.
Yeah, okay. I'll stick with B+.
Next up is Enduring Vitality. So the last card here in the Glimmer cycle. This is 2 green for a 3/3 Vigilance enchantment creature at rare. Has the ability, creatures you control have tap to add a mana of any color, and when this creature dies, you bring it back as a non-creature enchantment.
Yeah, so another nice way to enable survival.
Yep. And just, you cast this on turn 4 or 5, and sometimes it's kind of like quote-unquote free. Costs you tapping your creatures, but...
Yeah, I don't think it's in the A range, though.
Nope.
I think this is somewhere between B and B+.
Yeah, I was just going to give it a B. I think it's a pretty solid card. Nothing special, though.
Okay, I'll join you at B then.
Hauntwood Shrieker. This one, on the other hand, this is 2 green for a 3/3 Mythic. When it attacks, you manifest Dread, and you can pay 1 and a green, reveal target face down permanent. If it's a creature card, you can flip it up.
Yeah, this...
It's a monster.
I mean, it doesn't help itself attack.
But 1 attack is good enough, right?
Yeah. I also don't think this is in the A range, though. Like, it's no ETB, no protection again, and like green.
Yeah, and it's also, I think, quite a bit worse if you don't play it on turn 3.
Mm-hmm.
Scary card, but also manageable at that point. Yeah, the highs on this card are super high. You play it on 3, it doesn't go answered. You manifest like a 6-drop or a 5-drop, and you just flip that up. But yeah, past that, it is quite a bit worse. And again, double green.
I think I'm gonna give it a B.
Yeah, sounds about right. I think B+. I think it's probably just, again, with that runaway potential.
This kind of reminds me... Oh, what was the MH3 card? Eladamri, was it?
Eladamri, yeah.
It was a 3-mana, 3/3, 1 green. You needed to like untap with it to start doing stuff. Maybe that convinces you to go a bit lower on it.
Well, the other thing too, we were just saying it's a lot worse past turn 3, but if you manifest Dread earlier and you just go turn 5 this, flip that thing up, like that's pretty good too.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
I think I'm gonna stick with my B+.
Okay.
Yeah. Sweet card though. Omnivorous Flytrap up next. 2 and a green for a 2/4. That is completely vanilla. It's a rare, by the way. It's completely vanilla unless you have Delirium. And if you have Delirium, it says when it enters or attacks, if there are 4 or more card types in your graveyard, the Delirium text, distribute 2 +1/+1 counters among 1 or 2 target creatures. And then if there are 6 or more card types among cards in your grave, double the number of counters on creatures you control. +1/+1 counters, on those creatures.
Yeah, so you do the thing, you get heavily rewarded for it.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, extreme, like 3 mana, 4, 6 worth of stats, maybe more. I mean, rarely more, because 6 card types is not going to be that common, but holy.
This gets probably a build around grade.
Yep, I think so too. I think so too. And I think it's like a build around A minus.
Minus? Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm with you there.
Which is great. Tyvar, the Pummeler. This is 1 green green for a 3/3 legendary creature mythic. Tap another untapped creature you control. Tyvar gains indestructible until end of turn. Tap it. 3 green green creatures you control get +X/+X until end of turn, where X is the greatest power among creatures you control.
Wow.
Wow.
I mean, the joke here is survival, but any green deck is gonna love this thing.
Yeah, this thing is nasty. Hard to kill.
There's a lot of indestructible in this set. Although I guess there's also that uncommon that. Wait, does that only deal with ward and hexproof? It doesn't deal with that indestructible, does it? -3/-3 will kill it. Anyway, I'm getting off topic.
Yeah, that enchantment kills this thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, chat's saying it, and we said it too, but coming up and up on Sorcerer Dragonfire.
This gets past Dragonfire, doesn't it?
Oh, true. Yeah, because it has to kill it before it would exile. Yeah.
Yeah. This doesn't care about Dragonfire.
No, totally right.
At all.
Wow. Oh, wait. Card's just great then. Yeah, is this...
Like
I do feel like we've been giving a lot of A's and B's this set review. Like, more than normal. So I'm wondering if we are too high on some of these, or it's just all these cards are great.
A lot of them are white and green, which is something part of the reason I talked yesterday about green and white being two of the best colors is because I did glance at the Rares and Mythics, and most of them just looked insane to me.
Yeah.
I'm going to give this an A.
I'm going to too. That's where I was going.
Okay.
Yep. All right. A for Tyvar. Next up is Hedge Shredder. 2 green for a 5/5 vehicle at rare. Crew 1. When it attacks, you may mill 2 cards, and whenever one or more land cards are put into your graveyard from the battlefield, put them onto... whenever they're put into the graveyard from your library, put them onto the battlefield tapped.
So yet another way to enable survival.
Yeah.
So today, which is a nice. I like that they've done that.
No survival synergies. How do we feel about 4 mana 5/5 Crew 1 vehicle that probably, ramps you, enables delirium, all that stuff?
2 thumbs up.
Yep, 2 thumbs up. Still just good.
Yeah, this card's very good.
Another pretty high grade. I think this one's closer to like a B than a B plus or A minus.
Really?
Yeah, I think so. It does block incredibly well the turn comes down to, so maybe not. It's just giant.
And it can be like whenever you manifest dread, you can get those lands into play.
Okay. No, you're right. Yeah. Yeah, I've been trying to temper myself this entire set review, and then you've been, bringing up good points to make me go, no, it is actually just better than that.
Yeah, I could see, it's somewhere between B plus and A minus for me.
Okay, I'm gonna go with the lower grade. I'm gonna go with the B plus, but yeah, it's just a good card.
Okay, I'm gonna go A minus just for the survival it's insane synergy with this, so I'll stick with A minus.
Okay. Kona Rescue Beastie up next. 3 and a green for a 4/3 legendary creature at rare. Survival ability on this is you may put a permanent from your hand onto the battlefield.
This one's a lot worse.
Yeah, definitely. This is a card that's been getting some hype for constructed, but you're just not going to have a giant creature in your hand all the time. It's mostly a vanilla 4/3.
You do want to see the screenshot when someone puts a Valgavoth into play.
Yeah, that'd be sweet. Or one of the... No, I guess that doesn't actually matter. I was going to say one of the more expensive rooms, but that doesn't do anything. Yeah.
So that would just be... The room would just be, locked on both sides, right?
I believe so. Yeah, that's what happens. And I think that's what happens if you, blink a room, too. It just comes back both sides unlocked. Or both sides locked.
Sure. Well,
Yeah.
that can be an upside because you get to
Yeah, could
do
be.
them again. Yeah.
Anyways, Kona, it's like
Like that.
a D plus.
Yeah, I think it's D plus.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think so too. Leyline Mutation up next. This is 2 green for an enchantment. Begins if it's in your opening hand, put it on the battlefield. You can pay Wooburg, all 5 colors, rather than pay the mana cost for spells you cast, and we will not be doing that, so this is an F.
Sure is.
Next up is a Balustrade Worm, 3 green for a 5/5 rare. Can't be countered, Trample Haste. So that's already pretty good. 5 mana 5/5 Trample Haste can't be countered. Delirium, 2 green. Return it from your graveyard to the battlefield with finality counter. Delirium active only after 4 or more cards in the graveyard. So it's 5/5 hasty thing that comes back. Good to mill too.
Yeah, Boar with flashback.
Yeah. A?
This is another A?
Yeah.
Yep.
There's another A.
Yep.
Yeah, if we end up overrating things, sure, we'll admit to that later. But currently, it's just looking like the set is full of a bunch of great rares, including the next one, Overlord of the Hauntwoods, 3 green for a 6/5 mythic enchantment creature, impending for 1 green. When it attacks or enters, create a tapped colorless land token named Everywhere that is every basic land type.
This one's worse than the others, though.
Yeah, it's worse than this. I think this is probably the worst of the cycle.
Yeah, A minus, or are you gonna go B plus?
I think B plus for this one. Yeah, like both. This definitely has some not diminishing returns, but a cap on how good the ability is. Like the one that deals 4, the one that makes tokens. Like you're just happy to throw those around. Sometimes you're just not gonna have use for the extra token or the extra mana.
Okay, all right, I'll join you at B plus then.
Okay. Next up is a room at Mythic. Walk-in Closet is 2 green that says you can play lands from your graveyard, and Forgotten Cellar is 3 green. When you unlock this door, you can cast spells from your graveyard this turn, and if a card will be put from your graveyard from anywhere this turn, exile it instead.
Yeah, this is not. This is like a D minus.
Yeah.
Like probably an F.
Yeah,
but
bad card advantage card basically.
You're going to go down to F for
No,
this,
I'm not gonna go to the F. I'm gonna give this like a D.
A D. Okay.
Yeah. All right, and then that brings us to our special guests. So these are, if you're haven't played the most recent sets in the past year with play boosters, these are just 10 cards that you're gonna see very rarely. They're more rare than mythics. So not gonna happen. You're basically gonna see these like once a format if you draft a ton, and that means your side and the opponent's side, but still worth going over. Soul Warden, first one here. This is the single white mana for a 1/1. Whenever a creature enters, either yours or your opponent's, you gain a life.
Fine. It doesn't really fit a particular deck, but fine.
Yeah, playable.
It's like a C minus probably.
Yeah, I think so too. Never actually had this card in a limited format, I don't think. Like the actual you gain or gain from yours and your opponents. Like as a recent one, like an arena one.
The good news is there won't be stats on this for a month anyways.
Yeah, exactly.
So who knows if we're wrong?
I'm gonna give it a C. I'm just gonna give it a straight C, I think.
Sure.
Yeah. Next up is this is a really cool one. Hallowed Haunting. So this is 2 white for an enchantment. As long as you control 7 or more enchantments, creatures you control have flying and vigilance. And whenever you cast an enchantment spell, create a white spirit cleric, a token with this creature's power and toughness are equal to the number of spirits you control. So this was a card we saw in Crimson Vow, and it was a actual build around. You could actually play this card in blue-white that cared about enchantments. And I imagine the same is going to be true here.
Yeah, that set might have had a few less enchantments, but more other spirits. So the ones you had were bigger, but this should roughly end up being about the same power level, I think.
Yeah, and I think that was like a build around B+, I would say.
Yeah, that sounds reasonable.
Yeah, gotta have a lot of enchantments, but you're gonna know when you have the deck for this. Phantasmal Image is up next, 1 in a blue for a 0/0. You can have it enter as a copy of any creature on the battlefield, except it's an illusion in addition to its other types, and it has the ability when this creature becomes the target of a spell or ability, you sacrifice it.
Yeah, nice card.
Yep, super cheap clone. Usually you want to target something with an enter the battlefield effect, so that if this
Yeah,
does die, you don't feel too bad about it.
like C plus.
Yeah, it sounds about right to me too. Next up
Okay.
is Expropriate, a 9 mana card. 7 blue for a sorcery. Has Council's Dilemma, which says, starting with you, each player votes for time or money. For each time vote, take an extra turn after this one. For each money vote, gain control of a permanent owned by the voter. For each money vote, choose a permanent owned by the voter and gain control of it. Then you exile Expropriate. Is this a uncastable, not worth the squeeze kind of card, you think?
I'm probably not worth talking about, but I don't think so. Right? This is either like time stretch or time walk. Take their best thing.
Yeah, usually it ends up being Time Walk take their best thing.
That sounds worth 9. Well, 9 mana. Oh, that's a lot of mana.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna
We're
give
back
it.
to, oh wait, 9. That's a lot.
Yeah, I looked at the 7 for some reason, and yeah, it didn't clock. I'll give it a D.
Okay, yeah. Sacrifice is up next. Single black mana for an instant. As an additional cost to cast this spell, sack a creature, and you add an amount of black equal to the sacrifice creature's mana value. Now here's how you cast that demon.
Mmm,
Yeah. This is an F though.
it is enough.
All right, great. Next up is Damnation. This is 2 black sorcery. Destroy all creatures. Can't be regenerated.
This card is good.
Yeah, just classic Wrath of God, 4 mana Wrath. I think black is gonna like a Wrath in this format. Seems good. I would give Damnation a B plus.
Yeah, I wrote down B plus as
Nice.
well.
Unholy Heat, another really good one. Single red mana for an instant. It deals 2 damage to target player. 2 damage to target creature or planeswalker. But if you have Delirium, it deals 6 damage instead.
Super efficient.
Yeah, mega efficient.
Does this reach efficiency A minus?
I was gonna give it a B plus. I think
Okay.
the efficiency really matters there. Great
Okay,
card.
it doesn't really matter. I'll join you.
Maddening Hex, 1 red for an aura, curse, enchant player. Whenever the enchanted player casts a non-creature spell, roll a d6. Maddening Hex deals damage to that player's player equal to the result. Then you attach the hex to another opponent, choosing at random. No, this is an F.
F.
Next up is Noxious Revival, a single Phyrexian green mana, so you can pay 2 life or green. Put target card from a graveyard on top of its owner's library. Another F, just not worth the card.
Yeah, card disadvantage.
Collected Company. This is 3 and a green for an instant. Look at the top 6 cards of your library. Put up to 2 cards from among them with mana value 3 or less onto the battlefield. Then put the rest in the bottom of your library in any order. So, a powerful card, but your hit rate has to be really high to make this playable. Like, you have to have 14 creatures that this, or more that this will care about.
Yeah.
And as we talked about yesterday, might be kind of hard with the Manifest Dread cards, because those are creatures that you're going to count as your creature cards, but don't actually, increase your creature count.
There's also all those really busted 3 mana cards that had additional cast costs.
Right,
so.
yeah.
I'm gonna give this a build around B.
Yeah, I think so too, and I would note that's just not... You don't get there almost ever. Like, I think this is a card that's almost never going to actually make the deck. Yeah.
Okay.
And we've got... Oh, is that... Yeah, that's it.
That's it.
That's it. All right. End of the review. So, another end of a set review comes once again. What are our final thoughts? I think we said a lot of the kind of final thoughts things that we normally say throughout today and yesterday, but maybe just for those folks who didn't catch everything, just to wrap it up in a few sentences. What are you looking forward to in this set?
I think that it's really easy for this set to end up being like unbalanced because the decks are so different from each other, like Rooms versus Reanimator versus small creature aggro versus survival. I think it would be really tough to find a balanced format for that. So if this format's balanced, I think it's going to be super interesting, super deep, a lot of play to it. I am a bit concerned both with the balance and with the number of like busted rares. So
yeah, me too.
again, going back to one of the things I said yesterday, I think this is going to be a counterspell is good format, and I think you kind of see why today because there's just so many cards that you want to answer cleanly before they hit the battlefield. Looking forward to trying it out, and I guess we'll see in a month or two how it pans out.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think that's gonna do it from our side here. We'll just wrap it up. If you're watching on Twitch, this will be on the YouTube later. Also on the Limited Level Ups podcast feed. Want to thank Marc, of course, for joining us, giving us our the time. Really, really appreciate that. I always enjoy these a ton. Look forward to them, and we're gonna see you in 2 months most likely because there is actually another draft set coming out. Foundations. I thought this would be the last one of 2024, but we will be back if Marc wills it to be.
Well, yeah, thanks so much for having me. I
Yeah.
always enjoy doing these a ton, so it's been a pleasure. And yeah, we'll definitely get together for Foundations.
Yeah, sounds good. All right. See you, everybody. And yeah, we'll talk to you next time. Bye.